With the 21st pick in the 2023 NFL Draft, the Los Angeles Chargers select Quinton Johnston, wide receiver, TCU.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com.
Looking for Johnston now. Speaking of big plays, he's got it, and it's a touchdown.
365 Sports is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
Texas brings pressure. Duggan backpedals, lofts to the end zone, wide open. Johnston, touchdown.
365 Sports is also brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, protecting Texans since 1952.
Play action. Duggan, again, all kinds of time. Floats one and drops it into Johnston. He's gone. Touchdown.
Have you subscribed to our YouTube channel? Search 365 Sports on YouTube. Brought to you by TFNB, your bank for life.
Looking for Johnston now. Speaking of big plays, he's got it, and it's a touchdown.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
And here we go on this Thursday afternoon, and it's not a fun day again in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Paul Catalina, Craig Smoak. I'm David Smoak. We appreciate you, our sponsors who make this happen every day, and you, the audience that allows us to be here too. And we appreciate your time. The chat room is already rolling, and the text line if you need it. And we would love you to send in questions or comments, 254-339-1122. We'll have Quinton Johnston from Temple High School, TCU, and now a part of the Los Angeles Rams. He'll join us today at 3:45 among some other guests. So Alabama has had a tough run in their athletic department. They had the shooting, the murder, alleged murder with the basketball player, had a recent player that joined the team, had a gun possession charge, and now the Alabama baseball coach has been fired. This was over a story we discussed a little bit about gambling in the middle of a game that Alabama was playing when it came to the commission in Ohio and then New Jersey, among others. And it's been a rocky start. And you wonder if this is also a trend because legalized gambling is everywhere. I'm not saying they should shut anything down. Don't get me wrong. But this is something that has to probably scare every athletic director around the country.
Well, I would think because it's easy to do, right? So, and you're not looking at everybody's phones and all that, but this got flagged and caught. But yeah, very bizarre situation, and not completely sure what exactly Brad Bohannon did or how exactly he went about it. But 5 days after it happened, Alabama initiated the termination process for, among other things, violating the standards, duties, and responsibilities expected of university employees. And NCAA employees are not allowed to gamble. They can't even do an office pool of the NCAA tournament. You couldn't, when I say office pool, everybody fill out a bracket, and if Shirley wins, she gets cupcakes. They can't even do that. They can't do that. So when it comes to this is a really serious accusation and charge and offense if he did it. So I am very wide-eyed and curious as to how this all plays out.
Yeah, I think the unfortunate part here is, besides the fact that there were some, egregious things going on, clearly, allegedly, is that we don't really know what any of this means. Yeah. I read a long article earlier today, and it pointed out all of the timeline, and the regulators saw this, and they spotted that, and they contacted this person, and I'm still but what are they talking about? Like, I don't know about you guys. I mean, maybe it's much clearer to y'all in the reading, but I still have no idea what to believe other than a couple of bets were placed on LSU, so that would lead you to believe that whatever information he was working with or a part of would mean that they knew that Alabama wasn't on the winning end that day, and they used that to bet on LSU. And so, but like, is that worth the risk? Like, would you put down like $5 million to make a? I mean, I don't. There's parts of this because I'm not a gambler that I just don't simply understand. Because I don't know how in the world this was worth it. First of all, and I still don't know how much he was actually involved, but clearly he was involved enough to the point that Alabama, who stood by, a really tough, set of circumstances in basketball and stood by Nate Oates and let him keep coaching and, moved forward the way that they did with the information they had. With the information they have here, they just say, all right, you're done. So what he clearly did something wrong. This isn't just simply an allegation, and they're like, well, let's, they're not even letting it play out. They're going straight to the cutting board. So that tells you something, because colleges are usually a lot more calculated if there's the potential of getting sued or, wrongful termination and those types of things. So yeah, they clearly have some evidence of what happened. But I think for myself, I'm still just wondering what exactly happened. Although there's signs pointing to, kind of what the deal was here. So, yeah, very interesting story that we're clearly going to have to learn more about because there's a lot of blanks to be filled in. But what a year. What a year for that athletic department. And I would imagine that at some point there's going to be a culture article written. And if not, then I want to know why not, because there are other schools who have had, things pile up on them, and you get that culture article. So I would have to imagine, given what we've seen this year, football, basketball, baseball, that's probably coming down the pipeline, I would think.
Pete Thamel was told that no reason to believe any student athletes are involved, in a story by David Purdom on ESPN.com. And so there's that, because that's the first thing you started thinking about, was even when that story came out. And yet it is the coach who's fired in Brad Bohannon. And you're right, Craig, about other departments or athletic departments that have been through a lot. We are in Waco, Texas, Central Texas. We try to cover now the landscape from coast to coast, and we do. But I remember every day the outside the lines ticker, every day the outside the lines cut-ins, every day. It was
That's not quite what I mean by that. I just mean that, like, they've had a major issue in 3 different sports now. So, like, there's typically, it's like when Texas, with the softball coach was yelling, and they had something going on in football, I think, and he had the Chris Beard thing. Remember that? There were like all these tweets about the culture at Texas, and they had, here's Chris Beard, and here's the softball coach yelling, and here's Sark doing whatever he did, or Herman or whatever. And so I just imagine those are coming up, or you're seeing those types of tweets already spawning now, because this has become like a pattern this past year for Alabama. I'm not comparing it to the Baylor thing in any way, shape, or form, but just saying that you've had enough things happen in a short amount of time that I think it's fair to question, like, what the heck's going on over there right now? And do they need to tighten the reins a little bit? That's all I am implying with that.
It is it's tough. I mean, and then you never know what leads to if this could be just what's going on with him. It could be something deeper. You don't know. But I have a feeling that I remember there was the Boston College, and there's maybe 1 or 2 that you've seen along the way when it comes to college athletics involved in a sting or an investigation or whatever. But it has been amazingly, for the most part, the percentage is very minimal. And so this story here, and I don't know enough about gambling either. I've gambled one time in my life, and I was miserable, even if I won. But, and I'm not talking about going to Vegas or Shreveport or wherever, the WinStar. But do you feel like that this is just random, or do you feel like because legalized gambling has gotten so much more involved in colleges, no matter what, it's kind of embraced it? The NFL, pro sports, it's on everything. I'm not blaming it on gambling, but could this start to be more frequent?
Well, the more easy it is to do something without, like, how many times do you think Calvin Ridley placed a bet on something before anybody said anything to him in the NFL, right? So, because it's easy to do. I mean,
wasn't the Lions?
I could have done it 20 times while you were talking right there. It's really easy to do now. I don't have to be like, hey, Smokey, I got to take a phone call, and then go out and be like, who is that? Don't worry about it. I don't have to do that anymore. So, I mean, look, and it's not legal in every state, but it's easy to do. And in the state, like, somehow this bet was placed at the sports book that's at Great American Ballpark in Cincinnati while he's like, so there's a lot of winding roads to get to what really went on here, how exactly it went down. But at the end of the day, yeah, it's really easy to do. So everybody's going to have to be on high alert. You get NFL players that just got suspended for doing it because, again, it's really, really easy to do.
There was Paul Hornung, there was Alex Karras, and that was 60 years ago, and you haven't really heard much about it.
Well,
and then you had what you had with Ridley, and now with the Detroit Lions players and a Washington player.
Like when I was in school, in college, a guy I went to middle school with, Teddy Dupay, was the point guard of the Gators, a really good player. One of their best players, scored a ton of points, and he got in trouble for being somehow, I don't even know completely looking back at what it was, but he was somehow involved with a bookie, and that's why he got kicked. He was one of the better players, if not the best player on that Gators team at the time, right before they had their big championship runs with Billy Donovan. He was kicked off the team for being involved in that, so it does pop up because, again, even back when it was hard to do, it's still of hard things to do or harder to do. It's still pretty easy to do.
It was a dark place to go, right? It was, you kind of had to be there. In certain places, not so much. But so there's that story involving Alabama baseball, and still maybe more to come on that. Kansas, man, it didn't end well for them in basketball this past year. It didn't end well for a lot of teams, but they were out quickly. Bill Self had the health issues too, but they are loading up in basketball. Hunter Dickinson, the 7-footer from Michigan, he's a good player, really, really good player, has announced that he has committed to play at Kansas.
Yo, what's up?
Hunt, what's the hold up? You got players, coaches, you got the whole world waiting.
Yeah, right. It's time. This decision might even been harder than the first one coming out of high school. Having all these coaches hit you up again. Then again, it was also kind of easier in a sense, been going through it and stuff. But I'm just really glad it's over now. Coach.
What's up, big fella? I am fantastic. How are you doing?
Good. I just wanted to tell you that I'm going to come play for you next year at Kansas.
Oh, you know what? I was hoping it was going to be good news.
Hunter Dickinson is going to KU. Like Bill Self was waiting in that room and didn't know already. But there might have been the video.
Calipari could have been in the other ballroom, and who's the coach at Villanova now, could have been in the other one because
or Kentucky.
Yeah, so Calipari could have been the other one just sitting there waiting.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, who knows? But yeah, it's hold on. I've got to read something on this story. Officially, Bill Self is the greatest. His team's going to be stacked. Those were my required words. Okay, I've said it.
Is that from your mother?
No, it's from my soon-to-be wife. Yeah. She was thrilled. We've been checking the story multiple times a day for weeks now since he said he was going in the portal. But this is huge get for them. They have there's a good chance they only have 3 scholarship players from the team that won the Big 12 last year come back and play for them and are better because Hunter Dickinson's going to be there. They've got the transfer in Tomlinson that they got from Towson, I believe.
They got Arterio Morris, who came in from Texas.
Arterio Morris from Texas. It looks like they're going to get the Mbako kid that decommitted from Duke. So all those things are going their way, and this is this changes the landscape in the Big 12 immensely.
What do you mean changes the landscape?
I mean, like,
that they're going to be one of the favorites?
No, as far as like your chances of beating them and knocking them off.
Yeah, there's still time. Other teams can add, but they are in a really good way, and that's a big deal with a big kid inside because they really kind of lacked that last year, that big presence inside. Uday is still there, coming back, who started growing up on their team last season.
Yeah, good pickup. Imagine that. Kansas is going to be the favorite in Big 12 basketball. Yeah. That's insane. Can't believe it. What a new era we are entering now. No, I mean, that's to be expected. I don't think that's really anything shocking. Maybe a Baylor or Texas or Texas Tech jumped into that spot as far as a preseason ranking. I don't really recall those off the top of my head. But, it's been their conference for the entirety of the conference, basically. And they're a blue blood, and that's what they're expected to do is have, a blue blood team rolling out there year after year. That's what their fans expect. That's what Bill Self expects, and that's what they've been hard at work on, and now they've added another piece to that, and they'll be formidable as always. Just to what degree is what we will have to wait and see on, but they're shaping up really nicely, and with that in turn, other teams are doing their things and should make for another fun Big 12 season.
It's going to be fun. It's already a loaded conference, and who knows, the future might even include Gonzaga, and who knows, maybe even a team on the East Coast somewhere. Zesty's Retro and Games, $2 Super Chat. Thank you, sir. May the 4th be with you all. Big get for KU basketball. That kind of rhymes, by the way. Yep. And thank you, Zesty, for the Super Chat.
Paul's the big May the 4th be with you guy here.
Yeah. Although in my house I won't. I mean, again, I want to get celebrate because,
You can't even do that now? So now you can't be a Star Wars fan, which you were your whole life, but now you're a Kansas fan.
I have to watch every Star Wars movie away from her because of two things. One, she'll come in and go. Here's the thing: she's not prohibiting from watching it, but she will ruin it because I don't know what her inane sixth sense of when the important thing is happening. That's when she'll talk.
Oh, the lightsabers are out. Oh, hey, Paul,
by the way, let me ask you 10 questions. And she's like, well, you can pause it. I'm like, yeah, but the emotion and the buildup was happening now. And then the other thing is she'll walk in or she'll sit and watch quietly and then look up and go, what is happening in this stupid show? And I'm like, you know what?
You just act like she's not there.
Yeah, good luck. Yeah.
So there's that. Yeah. It is 4th be with you. I'm not into that at all.
May the 4th be with you.
Maybe May the 4th be with you. I'm not into that at all, but I understand and respect the tradition. So it's interesting. The Big 12 and a lot of other
It's not really a tradition. I think it's more of a corporate marketing thing. May the 4th be with you. May the 4th be with you.
Okay.
It's May the 4th.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So that's how much I know about it. So there was an interesting evening when it comes to the Big 12 media deals, the Pac-12, and so much more. And I don't even know where to start, but Dennis Dodd, CBS Sports, had a story, the title, Murky Future for Pac-12 Finds Shred of Clarity, with ESPN appearing out as option for primary media rights. What he is saying here in his report was that for the first time publicly, we're not doing anything with the Pac-12. A Big 12 administrator aware of the exchange told him on a condition of anonymity. The Tier 1 rights is what I think Dennis is reporting here, but I don't think they were ever involved in that either. And as soon as that story came out, and he's talking about the Tier 1 rights, which we all have thought maybe that's going to be Apple Plus, Bob Thompson, Patrick Crakes, our good friend Jim Williams, who's been on with us too, immediately, within maybe minutes, Nicole Auerbach and also Ross Dellinger came out with their own responses to that. And in both cases, basically said that ESPN is still involved. In fact, Nicole Auerbach's was the Pac-12 and ESPN met as recently as today, after also saying ESPN remains a bidder for the Pac-12's Tier 1 rights. That's with The Athletic, Ross Dellinger with SI, and Dennis Dodd with CBS Sports.
I am so, and all three of these reporters are great at what they do, and they're not included in this. I just want the Pac-12 to get their bleeping TV deal done, so we can.
Why don't they get at least an offer first?
Yeah, just get it. Get an offer, get it done. Let's figure out what's going on. This wild speculation it's getting me such a headache. I know that there's a lot of people in the chat room who love this intrigue and love that the possibility that this conference could break up and people could go anywhere, and that'll be interesting to discuss if it happens or when it happens. But this whole, this company's in, they're out, they're in, they're out, they're in, they're out. I'm to the point of just figure it out, Pac-12 and whoever you're partnering with, please.
Yeah, the only thing that I know for sure is that Ross and Nicole were having to have been standing by each other and having the same conversation because the tweets were 30 seconds apart, and they were the exact same thing, basically. Yeah. So I guess that's the one thing I do know is they were very clearly in the same vicinity and probably talking to the same person within a foot of each other or, around that, because it was like boom, boom. And not only are they not out, they're still in it for the tier, that kind of a deal. So I don't know. I mean, at this point, I do feel like when we're getting into this territory where it's like reporters dueling of like he said, no, he said, or she said, no, she said, I do think that's where it starts to jump the shark a little bit. I'm interested in the TV side of it. I think it's interesting to listen to guys like Bob Thompson explain that part of the deal. But, the whole like both you're lying, no, you're lying, no, you're lying, this whole propaganda, accusations that are being thrown around, and then just some of the people who are very clearly rattling off stuff that they don't know what they're talking about, but they're doing it because they're getting interaction on social media. And that's not Nicole or Ross. That's some of the other people.
Or Dennis.
That's some, others or other that's, taking full advantage of the speculation and just continues to churn it out as though things are happening every 30 seconds. So I think just everywhere you look, it's kind of gotten to the point where it's just a little crazy. And for some people, that might have been a long time ago. I'm still interested in the story itself, but all of the extracurricular, like mudslinging, I guess, is what I'm not that interested in. I feel like,
like lines have been drawn.
Yeah, like I saw one of the Pac-12 guys had some, paywall article that was mudslinging, and I don't know what it said, but I'd imagine it was saying something probably about Dennis Dodd or whatever. And, then there's Dodd saying what he said, and then there's, again, the immediate response by those two of, nuh-uh, that's not true. So I don't know who's talking to who. I mean, very clearly they're talking at least to somebody from the Pac-12 last night or from ESPN, I suppose. And Dennis, I don't know who he's talking to. I do know this. If there is somebody in the Big 12 that's outright just like getting him or someone else to just stir the pot, I don't like that. I don't know if that's happening here or not, but whatever he was told from whoever he was told that by, it was refuted so quickly that it makes it look a little bit silly, right? And so I just think that, there's obviously some plays that are being made and people are being tactical in some ways, but don't just like throw crap out there. You know what I mean? Like that's what I don't enjoy. So somewhere along, like there's clearly somebody's wrong in last night's report.
Okay, I don't know who. Maybe everybody's right, but again, you're right.
I'm not talking about the reporters themselves. I'm saying whoever's throwing that information out there to do whatever their intention is, quit doing that crap.
He is saying that this is a Big 12 administrator aware of the exchange, told CBS Sports under the condition of anonymity. That's a source. We're not doing anything with the Pac-12. That is from, according to the Big 12 administrator, what ESPN has told the conference. Everyone was kind of together in the same spot this past week, this past 2 or 3 days. I think most everyone is back home. So there was that. Now, I do know this, that there's a lot of smoke, but there has been smoke for months. And if anyone, let's say 2 months ago, if I would have said 2 months ago, if in fact one of the teams gets antsy in the Pac-12 and decides to move or at least start serious flirtation, who would you have said it 2 months ago would be?
Arizona.
Okay. Craig?
Yeah, I mean, one of those same, them or, no, probably just them, yeah, I guess, because the whole other schools that are mentioned, they're not nearly as much of a, not a sure thing, but as, seems like it's more reasonable to assume that Arizona is more on board with potentially looking around than the others seem to be, no matter how often they're mentioned. It just seems like that door's cracked a little more open just based on the feel and all of the talk, even though that's, not necessarily something that's super on record, but just things add up to make sense that they could be the one to want to do that.
And Robbins has been quoted as saying, just like I think maybe a handful of other presidents in the Pac-12, that once we see the deal, then we'll decide what we need to do. And I'm paraphrasing that. Colorado might be the one now that is, and you would think that would make sense because they have the buffalo that leads the herd, but it appears that Colorado, based on a lot of just intel, could perhaps be the one that leads the way, that they might be the first one that would go out the door. I'm not reporting they are the first one, but what I'm saying, that could happen. And then if that happens, then of course you could open up the dam. Who knows? There has been some reporting. In fact, some within our site have talked about Colorado and the Big 12 having some sort of a powwow I've seen different dates on that, not sure when that might happen. But that overshadows what still may happen when it comes to basketball with Gonzaga. That's still out there. And even now, the interest that it could add a secondary basketball team that's basketball only that might be on the radar. The Big 12 just met. We don't have Mac this week because of those meetings. Perhaps we'll have Mac Rhodes next Tuesday and maybe get him to tell us a little bit, and we'll try to get even more information before then.
Yeah, to go back to just the whole thing, I don't think that a Big 12 administrator is necessarily just outright lying to Dennis Dodd, because that would be a kind of a stupid move. That would just burn a bridge that you would like to have in this industry. It would be pointless to burn that bridge over something as silly as just throwing out a rumor. So I trust that he got his information that from somebody who believes that information. But I'm saying somewhere somebody's getting fed the wrong line, and that needs to be dug out, because you can't have he said, and they're all saying the opposite things of each other.
What if he is actually the Big 12 administrator, has legitimate information, and then somebody is then saying, hey, no, that's not true, just because we've seen people react to whatever one side has said compared to the others based on reporting.
I'm not pointing the finger at anybody.
Yeah.
I'm saying whoever on either side is feeding the BS, quit feeding the BS. Because, yes, it very well could – because I definitely saw this happen, and this happens all the time on these things. So Dennis Dodd has his report. Every Big 12 fan and whoever else jumps on that and treats it like gospel, and that's correct. And then – as soon as the other report comes out, every Pac-12 fan pops up and they believe that article. Well, I wonder why you believe that article and not the other one, because there's just as much of a chance that the Dodd article is right as there is that the Auerbach and Dellinger article is right. Now, you may think, no, they've got to have better sources. Not necessarily. So really all it is two different stories about the same thing coming from different viewpoints, and somebody's full of it. Somebody and not the reporters themselves, but somebody source-wise is full of it to some extent, and I just wish that would all get cleared up. But I know that's part of the deal. It's part of the speculation. And so we'll see in the end, because somebody's going to be proven, ultimately right on this, whoever that is. And Dennis Dodd may be able to crack open a cold one and just laugh his butt off for all we know, because there's just as good of a chance as that happening as the other side of it happening. And that's why the premature celebrations over, no, this report's right because this is what my side says. I just think that's kind of silly a little bit.
If everything that has been discussed by either those who don't report or those who are now trying to become experts in the situation, let's see, Washington and Oregon would be in the Big Ten. Stanford and Cal would be in the Big Ten. Or let's see, wait a minute, Oklahoma State would be, or Kansas would be in the Big Ten. Let's see, Arizona and Colorado. It's nuts. And that's why throwing something, again, not so much any reporters, but there is throw something against the wall. If it sticks, then you're good forever, right? But the 93 other times you're wrong, if you're just somebody throwing it out there, that's when you could really hurt yourself. And I've seen that with some that are not a part of any media. You don't have to be a part of media to not have information. Here's an interesting note. The fundamentals still remain an issue with the Pac-12. No matter what it is going to be, whether it's Apple Plus and ESPN, or whether it's Apple Plus and some other linear TV, or whether it's Amazon, whoever it might be, because that is very much the million-dollar question. The length of the contract could be an issue that may never change, that might be something that you just can't get through. The linear percentage, which we've discussed forever. And I never thought that ESPN was still involved in the Tier 1 rights anyway. So then when that kind of came out last night, that was surprising to me. And then the bottom line is, let's say ESPN is still involved. Let's say they are. Or today they are. They weren't yesterday. Are they going to, overpay for that? Are they just going to, go, just, here's a dump truck of money?
No.
So,
it'd be a bad look after they're firing 7,000 more employees over the next few weeks and months.
The length of contract, the linear percentage, and then even the bottom line of what kind of money would be offered, even if they were interested in being a Tier 1 rights holder from the Pac-12. It's that those things sometimes get overlooked when it comes to all of this, when it comes to media deals and so much more. We got to get to Max Olson. You got one more thing to add?
I mean, I trust reporters on either side. All the people involved, I think they do good work. And I'm just one of those that's not really going to dig a line in the sand and say, well, this person's right because this is what my opinion thinks, or this person's wrong because of that as well. again, ultimately, time will play out, and somebody will be proven right or wrong in some form or fashion. But I guess I'm just speaking to whoever's feeding one side or the other the BS. I just wish they'd cut it out, and I know there's motives for that and whatever, but I just think like an incident like last night just makes people look bad, and I don't like that for people who are just trying to do their jobs because somebody's getting fed some wrong information. So I just wish that part of it, kind of the disinformation and that stuff, would get out of the way and just let this thing play out. But I know that's part of the fun as well, the speculation side of it, and that's what really sets it on fire and makes it the inferno that it is for shows like this.
And again, what Dennis was reporting was Tier 1. They could still be a part of the Tier 2 or could be a part of
but
anything.
The article refuted that.
Yeah, well, the others did. Yeah, the others said that they're still involved with that. We're now joined by Max Olson, theathletic.com, covers college football, with us today a little bit early. Max, thank you for your time. Can we all get together for champagne or whatever it is once anything actually we know what the Pac-12 can do?
I mean, I was going to bring like just a real nice batch of misinformation to today's episode, but Craig just said I can't. Am I hearing that right?
Yeah, you can't. Yeah, Craig banned misinformation.
Yes.
Wow. Yes, I look forward to celebrating this. Hopefully, it's like by the time I see you guys in July at Media Days, like hopefully this is done. Who knows?
God,
That'd be
I
nice.
hope so, Max.
That would be nice. We could all just focus on the season, right, and have this storyline out of the way.
Yeah, and
That'd
then
be
the Big 12 might need extra hotels if, in fact, we have it done between now and then. But bump. All right, Max. It's not a college football question, but what are your thoughts?
Wait, one thing on that though. Just want to point out, just in case anyone was like kind of confused by that stuff last night too.
Yeah,
it's one of those unique situations yesterday where Brett Yormark and George Kliavkoff are in the same place at the same time.
Yep.
And so are reporters who are covering both leagues and talking to both of those people. And so are ADs from both of those leagues. So you kind of figured, like, with all those people in Phoenix at the same time, there was going to be some update coming out. And honestly, I'm not surprised that, like, depending on who you ask, you hear differing information.
That's a great way to put it.
Good clarification, Max, to kind of set the scene there and let people know, because it is weird when you see like this is not happening, and 2 seconds later this is happening, and clearly everybody's in the same spot, so it just makes it kind of hard to unpackage, I think, for people reading it on Twitter,
Max, this is not a college football question, if you don't mind, but what was your reaction when you heard about Alabama, the head baseball coach, being fired for their gambling accusations?
Yeah. I think if you've read like the ESPN story that came out, I think on May 1st, and you got to give them a lot of credit for, their gambling writer being all over this one. It's remarkable to me. I'm like, in a way, I'm not surprised, but it's kind of remarkable to me that a guy or whoever it was can go place a bet in Cincinnati, and within a couple of a bet that gets flagged because it's a big bet, I assume on Alabama baseball or whatever, and that can get flagged, and within just a couple of days they can nail down what's the connection to this and fire the coach. Like, that's kind of unbelievable. And I think but also we've kind of seen this too with some of these NFL suspensions where, like, the league basically is able to kind of go through all that data and figure out who did what very quickly. I think it's an issue that we're going to just kind of continue to see happen. And, pretty shocking that it would result in an SEC baseball program firing their coach, like, right away.
Yeah, people think ChatGPT is something else. That whatever AI was running that to figure that out so fast, also very impressive.
Yeah, the oversight on that stuff is, like, technologically, I assume, like, pretty crazy at this point.
Yeah. Max, your column on Deion Sanders in Colorado and their massive roster turnover, they have plenty of people to choose from in the portal. Everybody, based on how many people are in there, really could throw 40 or 50 guys in every year and get 40 or 50 guys back out. But, it's like fishing. Like, some of them are going to be, go on the wall, and others you're going to be like, well, it's a fish. So, but they're not all winners.
That's probably a good way to put it, honestly. Yeah, I think it's so Bruce Feldman and I put up a piece today after talking with coaches and recruiting staffers from all over the country who honestly, a lot of them are reaching out to us and just saying like, what's going on in Colorado? Like, help me understand this, because I think you just, I think it's normal. We've talked about it before. It's maybe it shouldn't be, but it's kind of normal now for a program to lose 15, 20, 25 players in one off season. I think we're kind of seeing that, especially at the Power 5 level. We're seeing that more consistently now. But when someone goes out and runs off 50 or loses 50, everyone's just like, wait, what? Like, how does that happen? And certainly there's a lot of curiosity among experienced people in the recruiting industry about like, how do they get back to 85? What kind of players are they going to be able to get in May when there's like just not that many great portal players left out there, to really get the depth back to where it should be? And like, honestly, a lot of folks just wondering, did they cut too many guys? As much as they probably look at that team that they inherited that went 1-11 and got blown out a ton and think you don't have a lot of good players or alpha guys we're looking for here. A lot of people are just really wondering, can they go out and actually get good enough players to make a sacrifice like that, worthwhile?
Max, I didn't get to read the entirety of the article, got mostly through it, but was there any coach?
Thanks, Craig.
No,
okay.
I'm going to finish it eventually, but no, the parts that I did see, it was basically guys going like, I don't understand how they're going to get, how it's going to work, but was there anybody that I missed in not finishing it that was like, oh, I totally see it, and I think that they can make out on the other end pretty okay?
Yeah, no, I think that there's, and I'm just giving you grief, bud. I'm joking, but I think there's people who look at it, who've been doing this for a long time, and certainly folks who like have gone through tough rebuilds in the past, who think like, man, it's so much easier now. Like, look at, it used to take years to do this stuff and to recruit several recruiting classes, and you couldn't just cut guys the way Deion Sanders has. I think people look at it and say like, it kind of makes sense to rip it down to the studs, and in some ways, maybe this does expedite the rebuilding process and save some time to do all of this right now. But I think there's also people who are watching this with a lot of curiosity, wondering like, what if this works? Like, what are the implications of that if this does work? If cutting 50 guys, turns Colorado into a much more successful team in year one, then it's a little scary to think maybe other people will try to replicate this, knowing that it's got some success behind it.
The magazines that used to come out, a lot of things have moved online, but there used to be those preseason magazines that would come out in June. Is that even possible anymore?
Do you guys remember there was one year that they were all totally ruined because the stuff with Coach Burrell all happened in May, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Like they were just like, none of it was in there. Yeah. Like I think the deadlines on that stuff is pretty early. So yeah, I still certainly go out and buy my Phil Steele, and he does the best he can with like what he knows at the time when he sends it to the printers. But man, just you talk with coaches about just how fluid the roster stuff is now, and how many guys they're still trying to recruit in May, as they try to fill out their 85, and you kind of, at least you have a little bit better sense now with this deadline of like, you shouldn't have that much attrition after this. But it's hard to pick a date in May or early June or whatever when all this stuff is finished.
Yeah, for people who aren't like think what Deion did is bad or egregious or whatever, I mean, from his perspective, this was one of the worst teams in college football, not just last year, but for a stretch. And comparatively, if you took last year's team and compared them to some other really bad teams in the Power 5, they were not winning any battles in that either. So you kind of get like, well, what am I doing if I have this first year exemption, this ability to do all this and not using it?
Yeah, I think that's a very fair counterpoint. And I think that, there's a couple players, they have an offensive lineman who's a veteran starter who went in the portal and committed to UCLA. There's a couple wide receivers who left there who I think have a lot of Power 5 options. But, it'll be interesting to see where the rest kind of end up. I think by and large, you're going to see guys go to G5 or FCS or something like that. And so, maybe Deion will, based on how that goes, and look, that's tough for those kids at this time of year to find scholarships at Power 5 schools. But I mean, maybe when the dust settles here, you'll point to that group and say they didn't lose a lot in terms of guys that ended up at good places. And so, I get that piece of it. The real thing that's interesting here over these next few weeks, they've been able to pick up some good players from Florida State, and they're recruiting, guys that come from Alabama and Georgia, some of these bigger programs and stuff. But can you ultimately end up winning on some of these best players in the portal, like Olson McCaskill or Zachary Franklin, some of these guys? Can you win those battles, or do you end up kind of taking guys that, similar to when you were at Jackson State, or even maybe guys that played for you at Jackson State, that it's hard to tell, is this guy really like a Pac-12 caliber player?
Max, did we, last time we talked to you, talked about Tyler Buchner? I can't recall.
I can't recall either.
But just your thoughts on him and the move to Alabama. And I guess the biggest story with this is really not even so much Tyler Buchner as, for a lot of people, what it signifies about Alabama, right? And their quarterback spot and not having the guys ready to jump in and all those types of things. So just what do you make of Saban having to go post-spring to grab a quarterback and what Tyler Buchner might mean for them moving forward?
Yeah, it's interesting to have that combined with, you've got Auburn looking to take either Casey Thompson or Peyton Thorne, I think. Like both of those powerhouses that can recruit at a high level, feeling like they don't really have the guy coming out of spring is pretty interesting. I think with Tyler Buchner, I'm still like a little bit surprised by the whole thing. You would think that like Tyler Buchner, I heard some of the other schools that were involved there, and like you would think he probably could have found a school that would like absolutely guarantee him the starting job. So you would think if he chose Alabama, he must have been, and didn't take any other visits, like he must have been given pretty good assurances that he's going to be the guy there. Because I think after being injured last year and not playing that much, like that kid needs to play. That's why he went in the portal. So he must like his chances. And you're right. I think it's hard not to kind of take that as not an indictment, but just like an assessment that, Tommy Rees, the new OC, maybe he's not liking the consistency and the play that he's seeing from Jalen Milroe and Ty Simpson. Obviously, none of those guys went in the portal, so they're sticking around to compete, it seems. And I think there's still ways to go on this stuff. But, yeah, you're right. I mean, obviously there's a familiarity between Rees and Buchner, but it does feel like Alabama came out of the spring feeling like we're not quite good enough. And, look, nobody's going to be Bryce Young, but interesting that with the four options they have, all blue-chip guys, they felt like they needed one more.
Max, I know you got to go. We have maybe another question or two for you. Mine is that when we get to this expanded college football playoff, do you think it almost needs to be where every conference plays the same number of conference games and it's not an uneven number?
I've not thought about that before, but I think that's true. Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, I think that that they probably all should be, whether it's 8 or 9. I would assume 9 being the better way to go. I think that's probably true in terms of fairness and in terms of like, there's a lot more for the committee to consider now. Usually it's just been, okay, kind of who won the conference championships and then who are the next few best teams. I think when you've got to compare resumes of way more schools now and have way more schools that like you're really seriously looking at throughout November. Yeah, that's probably true. You need some equality there in terms of the non-conference schedules and how many conference teams you play. I think it's a good point.
Max, thank you. Appreciate your time. As always, Max Olson. Have a great week, the rest of the week and weekend. Max Olson with theathletic.com. Coming up next, Quinton Johnston of the L.A. Chargers, former TCU and Temple High School star. What a day it was. He ended up being that first-round pick. We'll check in with Quinton Johnston next on 365 Sports. Don Humidor and Coffee Beans with a 48-foot walk-in humidor. Told you the story a couple of weeks ago. I walked in there, and I believe it was Cheyenne said, hey, I got something here for you. It's a gift card. Kim Coulter, one of our viewers, had called them up. One of our sponsors called them up and said, hey, I want to get a gift card for Smokey the next time he comes in to buy cigars. And that was so nice. I even sent Kim a note on the show the next time we were on. They have elite cigars. There's a new one now, not a new cigar. It's been around for a long, long time. It's called a box cut. It's just the way that it kind of how you handle it rather than the long Churchill or whatever torpedo type end. It's a box cut. It's kind of square. And it's one of its Quorum is a brand that I'd never really tried before. Really a very smooth cigar with the box cut feel, box press feel. They have every brand you can imagine, all of the elite brands, and even some that are kind of like, whoa, this is an up-and-coming type cigar, like someone coming through the minor league system or whatever it might be in baseball. Ashley, Carol, and Cheyenne understand the business. Don't forget the Vita Dreams CBD that allows you to maybe get more sleep, fall asleep easier, and then you feel better when you wake up. You didn't toss and turn. Don Chumador Coffee Beans in the Town West Shopping Center off Richland Drive and Valley Mills in Waco.
It's the season to shop our large selection at Allen Samuels in Waco and find the vehicle that's right for you. Get amazing deals on new Ram trucks, Jeep SUVs, Chrysler minivans, or a sporty Dodge. Shop AllenSamuelsDCJ.com or come in to see us today at Allen Samuels in Waco.
It's time to announce the 13th annual Academic All-Stars team honoring elite student athletes in Greater Central Texas. Hi, this is David Smoak. We annually recognize student athletes who thrive and succeed in both academic and athletic competition. And here are the male All-Stars, including Preston Batts from Wortham, Teague's Anthony DiMaselli, Mason Kirk from China Spring, Itasca's Cade Lightsey, Whitney's Canyon Massengill, Stefan Nickerson of La Vega, Xavier Payne from Ellison, Reeve Tarter from Midway, Troy's Nathan Westbrook, and Riesel's Grady Wilson.
The 2022-23 Academic All-Star Team is brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, Westdale Asset Management, Southwest Sports Medicine, Allen Samuels Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram, HEB, the McLean Group, Universal Windows Direct, the U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Center, Alliance Bank, Ray Broker AC, Hal Whitaker and Louis Englander Scholarship Fund, IdealMRI.com, Bubba's 33, the Baylor Club, and our 501c3, the Waco Foundation.
We'll honor the 13th annual Academic All-Stars team at our annual banquet Wednesday, May 17th inside the Presidential Suite at McLean Stadium with Baylor assistant basketball coach Bill Peterson, our guest speaker. We're very proud to recognize the elite student athletes in Greater Central Texas. It's the 13th annual Academic All-Stars right here on 365 Sports.
Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, a wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trust. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
Established in 2007 and independently owned, Alliance Bank Central Texas is committed to helping families and businesses meet their financial goals. From their tellers to their board of directors, they know the importance of superior service and competitive products. Customers have confidence knowing that their financial needs are in good hands. It's your bank, Alliance Bank Central Texas, with 2 Waco locations, 4721 Bosque Boulevard and 191 Archway Drive on Highway 84, and at AllianceBankTexas.com. Member FDIC and equal housing lender.
It takes time to reach goals. It's a truth that applies to more than sports. It goes for your financial goals as well. You work hard for your money and you deserve an investment strategy that lines up with your game plan. And Chuck Verno, your Edward Jones financial advisor, can help. If financial investments aren't putting forth the effort you desire, stop by today for a financial review. Chuck Verno, 720 North 64th Street in Waco, 254-732-1161. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
This is 365 Sports.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
We watched Quinton Johnston at Temple High School throughout his career, and then, of course, what he did with TCU. Quinton's joined us a couple of times on this show, 365 Sports, and the Los Angeles Chargers wide receiver and top first-round draft pick joins us, Paul Craig and David Smoak on 365 Sports. Quinton, has all the emotion kind of been able to die down a little bit, or are you still kind of riding high?
Yeah, no, for sure. I was obviously, a little high for emotion at first. just initially seeing my family there, and kind of getting to that point, which is obviously a lifelong dream of mine. But probably like the next day, next 2 days, ready to get to Los Angeles and get to work.
So you're going, Max is going, Darius is going. Do you guys get a group rate when they bring you over to training camp? And how does that feel to Look, it's a big step in life to move from college to your first job. And then when you get to do that, to do it with people it's got to be kind of relaxing or calming at some point.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's a good feeling. Obviously moving to a new place is hard enough as it is, and that's besides even just playing the sport, football. But obviously, when you have people you've been with for the last 3-4 years, it just makes it a lot easier.
Quinton, all due respect, we all love Temple, Texas, but it's not Los Angeles. So you've been to L.A. before. Your thoughts on just going and moving out on the West Coast and being in a big city like that?
Yes, I've been out there 3 times, but I'm ready for it. A few times I visited there, kind of grown to like it. Obviously, something to get used to.
And I'm an idiot because y'all played the national championship game just outside of Los Angeles. So clearly you had a little taste of L.A., but now that I think about it, but yeah, that's good. That's good anyways, yeah.
Yes, sir.
Your emotions and what you told your mother. I know you probably have rehashed this a lot, but we haven't talked to you since. What did that moment mean to you, the family? What did your mother say to you when you told her that she can now retire? It meant a lot to me. That was something that I was kind of planning on for a while now. Obviously, me when I first had kind of good draft grades and stuff going from college. It kind of started then. It always been something that's on my mind. And then when that moment came, I had something like written down. I had like a whole little paragraph of stuff written down. But shooting that moment, I couldn't even read. I just spoke from the heart. That was big. I told her, obviously to retire. And that was big for me and my family. She kind of just cried. I ain't really seen her cry before. So that was just a special moment we shared.
Quinton, you are joining a receiving core that already has Keenan Allen, who's one of the best in the game, and Mike Williams, who's one of the best in the game. For a young receiver, that's got to be huge to learn from players like that. And how excited are you to be out there for another target for Justin Herbert?
Oh yeah, for sure. I'm very excited. Especially going in, starting off behind those guys, just having that guy that veteran, experience. I'm gonna go in there like a sponge, and then just kind of suck up as much information as I can from those great receivers, and then apply what I can to my game.
Quinton, can you kind of take us through the whirlwind after the pick is made? Because we know you come out on the stage and there's the media session, I know afterwards. We go talk to all the NFL reporters. But in terms of once the TVs turn off and you start to get into getting to become a Charger and all that, what's that kind of process like right after you get picked and getting acclimated and learning all the new things? How much of a whirlwind is that?
Oh yeah, for sure. Especially coming from college, it's a complete 180 with the new schemes. Obviously getting to know new people, and then kind of just settling in and realizing you're in the NFL. It's kind of like a switch that flips on and off. You gotta kind of take your mind to a different place. In terms of just locking in all the way.
I got to tell you something. I reached out to you a day or two ago to ask you to come on this show. And what I loved about it is you answered the phone. We covered you in high school. You remember that. And also when you were at TCU. And I love the fact that sometimes because of who starts to tell you what you can do other than your parents is players can forget where they come from. Is that something that you want to make sure you never lose?
Oh, 100%. I've always been like a grounded and, pretty humble person. And I feel like this next step of my life isn't going to change that.
Now, I mentioned before, 3 of your teammates are going to L.A. The one I was kind of surprised didn't, just based on who his uncle is, was Travius. But, he's still going to L.A. He's just going to be with the other team. Do you think LaDainian was in that room saying, look, you guys got to take these TCU guys?
I wouldn't be surprised if he was a big part of that. And if he was, I'd tell him I appreciate it a lot.
Quinton, 8 players from TCU were drafted as a part of. That's one other obvious evidence of why you guys were so good last year. What was it like? Did you have like a group text, anything like that as the draft of the day went on?
Yeah. And kind of just backtracking real quick. That's just kind of a compliment of our past season and just everything we've been through, everything we worked hard for. But yeah, for sure on draft day, we was always in a group chat, kind of just hyping each other up, just congratulating each other. Like I said before, it was just a special moment for everybody.
How much, you were a multiple sport athlete, how much did that allow you to become not just a football player? You were fantastic when it comes to the jump, what is the high jump, is that right?
Yes, sir.
And the relays for sure. Well, what was that like as far as helping you develop into who you are now as an NFL football player?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, obviously playing basketball and then running track, you develop different skill sets that you can take with you to football, like what I could do with the ball in my hands after that, and being able to create separation stuff comes from track. Kind of the moves I do off the line, and then at the top of my route comes from playing in the post and basketball. So I feel like the muscle memories from those sports and playing those so long kind of just helped me elevate my game.
If you watch highlights of you, like the best touchdowns that you have are some of the ones where if you're watching the first part, the DB feels like he's right with you. Like he's right there. And then there's a point where you make a move or you start running faster than apparently you were and go. Is that what you're talking about where you can kind of just read the time of the moment where, okay, this is the point where I just make this move and he's not going to see it?
Yes, sir, for sure. I'm all about elusiveness. I mean, like you can take a route and make it look one way, and then kind of break it off and do it another way, or you can come off the ball like you're running full speed, but really not, and kind of just kick in another gear.
Are you training with David Robinson?
Oh yes, sir. 100%.
Yeah, and I saw that video. Lots of players are there, lots of athletes, pro, college, whatever. Tell us about. We've had him on the show. Let us know about what makes him so special.
I mean, shoot, he's a great guy. He's coaching. He's coaching from experience. He played at Oklahoma with my position coach, Malcolm Kelly. So that's how I first got introduced, to him. But then, like everything he teaches is game like situations, and it's like realistic game like situations. He teaches you, top route stuff, how to break down, how to come out of routes, what to do, against different press coverages, man, off man, whatever. So it's been good and fun to work with him.
You obviously were projected to be a possible first-round pick, and you were. What did you learn about the process from the time you played the championship game until all of that throughout weeks and weeks? Is it almost as if people try to find what's wrong with you or what you can't do rather than how good you are?
Man, that's what it seems like for sure. I mean, like during the season, especially with the season like we had, throughout the whole year, all you hear is your praises and, that touchdown you scored last week was good, and people posting highlights, and then it's like, all right, like now you're getting, evaluated for real by, not even just the NFL coaches and their scouts, by people on social media and stuff like that. So yeah, for the past few months, all I've been hearing is about stuff they feel like I do wrong or stuff they don't like about it. So, honestly, I'm ready just to get to this next level and prove everybody wrong.
Well, we're going to let you get to the next thing you have today as well. How much do the Chargers now kind of take care of your itinerary and kind of give you an idea of what you need to do and just the ropes of eventually being in L.A., at least early on with some of these off-season workouts?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Everything is everything is scheduled out, to the T almost. We got meetings and stuff all the time, kind of just, going over installs and stuff like that. I got just like different people on the team and the staff, just texting me to make sure I get down there and get acclimated to everything pretty good.
Congratulations, Quinton.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
We appreciate your time. We appreciate the access. Quinton Johnston, Temple High School. Now, of course, TCU, what a great run they made, and now a member of the Chargers in L.A. His mom and dad, both a part of the military. Dad was in Kuwait. Mom, who he mentioned she could retire, Sherry, served during Operation Desert Storm. Of course, the Temple, Belton, and Catalina area, not far apart, with the Army base or post in Fort Hood.
Yeah, I mean, cool spot for him to land. kind of jealous because not is he just moving to Los Angeles, but he's doing it with some money in his pocket. That's the most important thing if you're going to be moving out there.
That's really the best way to do it.
Yeah, I think that's about the only way to do it, honestly. But yeah, he's going to a cool spot, and to be surrounded by a couple of his buddies from his team he just played for in college is really cool. And then just sharing the same stadium as guys like Travius. So he's got teammates everywhere he looks in Los Angeles, the way that the draft worked out, and very excited for him. I tell you, when we saw him at high school, Midway, they shut him down. I mean, pretty good. He was not
Travius,
yeah. I mean, clearly was an NFL guy who was going to be his college teammate, but they shut him down and they had some good battles. So that was cool to be able to see that, prior to him becoming this household type of name that he's starting to become. But yeah, good young man and big things in store for him.
If you were to watch, and this is why I asked the question I did, but if you watch him on film compared to, say, Jackson Smith and Jigba and Jordan Addison's different in that, he's more of the – like he's kind of somewhere in between the two of them. Jackson Smith and Jigba is just the perfect route runner and just knows how to get open. I think Quinton's a little undersold in that because he's going to be on the outside a lot of times. Guys are going to try to bump and run him. You're going to put him up against a bigger corner a lot. He's going to have good players he's going to go against in the NFL. But the fact that he knows how to deceptively kind of kick that into gear, if you watch a lot of them, the touchdown he had against Texas, they're right with that won the game.
Yeah.
They're right with him. And then all of a sudden he just hits another gear and it's like they didn't even know how it went down that way.
Yeah, it was a post pattern, wasn't it? Like a deep, skinny, and he reaches out with these like giraffe long arms, and not to mention his height and his speed that can be sneaky because tall and lanky, sometimes you don't know they're running as fast until you're trying to catch him. Yeah,
the touchdown against Michigan was a screen. Yeah. And he just went. So
yeah, good for him. Congratulations, Quinton Johnston, Temple High School, TCU, and now with the Chargers.
Yeah, Paul did a top 5, and I didn't realize until afterwards. You touched on the transfer receivers, but you also there was a couple more that they had. Yeah. They got 5 transfer wide receivers. I think we talked about like 3 of them, but they have 5 of them, and they're all, I think, all Power 5 guys. Obviously. Dylan Wright from Minnesota, JoJo Earl from Alabama. You got a kid from Oklahoma State, John Paul Richardson. Yeah. And then there's a couple of others. Who are the others? I thought I had Jalen Robinson, who was at Ole Miss, but he was at UCF. UCF fans know him. He was great there. He did nothing at Ole Miss and went right back into the portal. So we'll see if he can recapture some of that night magic now in the Big 12. But he was a very interesting ad, I think, for them as well. And then Jack Beck from LSU was another wide receiver that they brought in. So, they're replacing Quinton, but, Darius Davis and others as well. So that'll be interesting. And I feel like they've kind of got – I think this is what Baylor was going to look like in this era had things never changed. Because you look at like the Sonny Dykes to Art Briles kind of comparisons. I mean, just in terms of like football style and what they do. You got Kendall, who's now calling plays, and you've got an offense where you're going to space people out and you're going to take big shots and hit big plays. But they had the defensive component as well, which was why they got to the national championship game, was because of what Joe Gillespie was able to come in and do. And I feel like that's kind of like what that was all leading to, was a style of team like that. And now we're seeing what that could have been. I mean, even the strength and conditioning side of things, that's the same as it would have been. So weird that it's happening so similarly and at your arch rival, but I think that's kind of when you were going like, man, imagine those Baylor teams from like the 2010s versus Alabama. Remember we used to do that fantasy game? We never got to see really those matchups except for maybe in a bowl game and against Michigan State. You saw the good and the bad of those types of matchups. But I think TCU, just in terms of that type of similar offense, spacing, all those types of things, it's what all that was shaping up to be, and now we're seeing the success that it can have.
Yeah, and the thing that made it intriguing about if you're going to have a team that's running this offense like Baylor is against Alabama, that was at the time where Nick Saban was trying to make it illegal.
Yeah, he didn't like it.
Because he didn't like it. He hadn't embraced it yet.
Now the SEC's running it left and right.
Yeah, now he and the SEC have embraced it. So now it would be different. Now you would see what you saw with Georgia did what they did to TCU. But back then it would have been curious because, the biggest win in maybe A&M's regular season history was that Johnny Manziel win against Alabama.
Oh, for sure.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, so
that might have helped them right then and there win the Heisman Trophy.
Exactly. So you've got a Heisman Trophy moment there that they won that game, and the reason that Nick Saban didn't like it because he when you go back and go, how do we stop this? You're like, well, I don't know, because nobody's doing this, and they weren't running it to the efficient level that Baylor was. Johnny just had Mike Evans, and it was.
Johnny had such a quick twitch. He was like trying to tackle someone being tased.
But it was the same thing. Look, Bob Stoops was running it at Oklahoma. They played them in the Cotton Bowl that same year. He had no answer for what you're going to do for it, and that was not even taking into account what Baylor was doing, just full out burning people out and having them run out of Gatorade. They were slurping so much.
I don't know, like if those teams had continued to just. If everything, obviously, and this is all, doesn't matter because it didn't happen, but just, you wonder about how things would have turned out differently. The way that they were building is to what I think kind of TC looks like now. And I think the transfer portal would have been something similar where they would have graduated receivers, they would have gone in, and they would have been a hot spot for transfers to come in and play, especially at wide receiver, and would have been able to do what Sonny Dykes did and go, hey, grab 5 guys who have played a bunch of reps in college at other programs. And I just think now it'll be fascinating to see if that's something that they can maintain year after year after year. Like, can you just plug your holes with transfers and, the coaching remains the same? I think Gillespie, obviously they need to hold on to him because you never know when you change coaches, but they've got him back. So I'm really curious about them if it's just able to reload that talent, because they lost a lot, man. I mean, they lost a lot of guys to this past draft that were valuable pieces to what they did. So
if they have anywhere near the success of transfers they had, and I know almost all of them drafted, right, were homegrown from a part of even the Gary Patterson staff. If they can hit on those transfers, you can hit on about 3 to 5 transfers, wherever they are. Man, you got a chance to turn things around and or sustain the success you had with the team that you no longer have because of the draft or just graduation and no longer eligibility. All right, this is 365 Sports. Mickey Spagnola around 425. Craig's off the radar. We'll also have Arizona Cardinals offensive lineman. He's a Central Texan, and Kelvin Beacham played at SMU. He is unbelievable at giving back. He's an unbelievable entrepreneur as well. He'll join us today via Zoom at 5:15. This is 365 Sports.
Richard Carr, Buick GMC Cadillac, they are the people that you can count on for great customer service, great repairs to your vehicle if you need those, and great deals as well at Richard Carr. And right now they're celebrating their 24th anniversary sales event, and it's been a fun time. But you need to go and take advantage while you still can, as they've got not only new but also pre-owned vehicles on the lot with special pricing. And when it comes to the new vehicles, you're talking about the lineup of Buick SUVs like the 2023 Enclaves, the Envisions, the Encores. Right now, qualified buyers can get low financing and save $2,500 on Buick Enclave Premiums, $3,500 on Buick Enclave Avenires. They've also got dozens of Sierra trucks on the lot. Qualified buyers can save $3,000 on new 2023 GMC Sierra SLT or SLE 1500s, and also get special financing for qualified buyers on new 2023 GMC Sierra trucks. Those are just some of the new offerings, and of course you can go over to the dealership or check out the website or give them a phone call and get more of the details and the information on those deals. But from the Buick SUVs to the new GMC Sierras, there's money to be saved with a new car right now over at Richard Carr. When it comes to the quality of their pre-owned vehicles, well, those are top-notch. Many cars and trucks in stock under $20,000. They're thoroughly inspected. They're ready to finance for almost any credit rating, and they are affordable quality vehicles, pre-owned, ready to drive today, or you already have a car. It's whatever year it is, doesn't matter. You're driving it, you plan on driving it for a while, you want to drive it as long as possible, then take it on over to the customer repair, or the customer service. It's top-notch over there. They'll repair your car if you need that. Oil change, they'll take care of that. Whatever it is to keep your vehicle in top-notch shape, they will handle that with ease and do it in a great way over at Richard Carr and the service department, standing by, as always, to keep you on the road. So whatever it is you're looking for when it comes to your vehicle, buying new, buying pre-owned, just taking care of what you have, go to richardcarr.com to see their service specials, to check out their deals, their savings, and to set an appointment for quick and reliable repair. In business for 24 years in Central Texas, They've built a reputation as the people you can count on for your automotive needs. Log on to richardcar.com today. Call now or go see them now off Highway 6 at the Imperial exit.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
In Texas, there's pea-size hail and baseball-size hail. Guess which one hit our house? We didn't even know where to begin, but we called our Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent, and he was so reassuring. He knew exactly what to do to get our house back into shape and our lives back to normal. Now, we're even more thankful for the roof over our heads.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. See all the things they can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby is a homegrown, locally owned pizza place that's out of this world. Everything from the dough, the sauce, the sausage topping is made fresh in-house. Not to mention the amazing pizza pillows, the chicken wings are to die for. Try the Sikkim sauce, chili cheese fries or tots, plus great specials on food and drink every single day. Shorty's is also the perfect spot to watch the game with your friends. Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby. Tell them Paul sent you by.
In the market for a quality metal building? Since 1943, Pioneer Steel & Pipe has helped Central Texas residential and commercial customers with metal building design, panel options, building components, and trim options. Pioneer Steel & Pipe's residential line is energy efficient, offers low maintenance, reduces insurance payments, is impact resistant, and carries up to a 45-year limited warranty. In addition, they can also help you find a metal building contractor for your project. Pioneer Steel & Pipe with locations in Waco and Bryan and at pioneerboys.com.
You want to know why Stonewood Dental is so successful? Listen to what happy customers have to say.
It's pleasant. It's different than any other dentist office. I really feel like they care. And it's not that you're here for 2 hours waiting on someone to take care of you. It's quick and easy, and I bring my kids, and my kids love being here too. They really love the treasure box. Staff is really nice and accommodating, real friendly. You feel more like home. It's not sterile looking. Everybody has their own personalized rooms with decorations and decor, and they'll even have a blanket for you when it's cold. I've recommended people to actually come here, and they are patients now. I really love it here. It feels like family.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
This is 365 Sports. Text us at 254-339-1122. The text line is sponsored by Riverbend's Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
Mickey Spagnola in about 15 minutes or so. The chat room has been great. No question. And a lot of it is from Alabama, the baseball coach being fired, to the drama out of Arizona, reporters, stories. Sometimes you want to believe what you want to believe, and then sometimes you're just like, just someone let us know really what's going on. So one thing, I just got this. Tykev, I think it is, he asked a question about, he doesn't think anybody should be forced to play the same number of conference football games. For example, the SEC plays 8. Some conferences play 9. I don't even keep up with it. I just know that the Big 12 has played 9 because everybody's played everybody. They're going to continue that even though now the conference has 14 teams this year. But I do also know that some of the conferences who played 8 games but had a championship game barked at times, or at least said, hey, how come we are playing a conference championship game and, for example, the Big 12 is not? And I'm not arguing for the Big 12. And that, to me, you know what? It actually was what hurt the Big 12 in 2014 is they didn't have a conference championship game. Can you imagine the rematch with Baylor and TCU? The winner would be launched into the 4.
It seems to me the argument, though, for the SEC to play 8 while everyone else is playing 9, and the Big 10's going to play 9. The ACC is going to play 9. If the Pac-10 has enough, 12 has enough players, then I think they'll play 9. Their argument seems to be, well, our 9 is harder than your 9 if we do 9. And then my response to that, if I was the other conference, would be like, you guys chose this path. You wanted this. So, you know, I think, and I agree with you, I think they should all, I think just in the sense of, you know, it's going to be a 12-team playoff. There's going to be more metrics you have to throw out there. If everybody's playing 9, to me, that's fine. And if there are 12 teams in the playoff, you don't maybe have to worry about losing that extra conference game as much, especially if you are a team who's going to be in contention for it, because, you know, like your whole propaganda is our 9 is harder than your 9. Well, since it's working, then most people would probably take that into account.
So there's that. Ty Kev asked that. I'd be against it, too, if the ACC and SEC wanted the Big 12 to move to 8 conference games or 20 conference basketball games. Conferences will do what's best to determine their champion. Yes, they will. There might need to be at least some formality in the criteria. Obviously, go undefeated, don't worry about it, no matter what conference that you're in. Now, this is a story about the Alabama baseball coach, Bohannon, being fired. This just came from ESPN.com, and the story is sportsbook surveillance video indicated that the person who placed the bets that created the stir was communicating with Bohannon at the time. Multiple sources with direct information about the investigation have told ESPN.
I mean, yeah, that's the only thing that really makes sense to explain the story without all the vagueness that was in some of the other reports, because they were just, there were blanks to be filled in. So, like I said at the top of the show when we discussed this briefly, I was curious of like how this unfolded to where he was able to be pinpointed, and what exactly was it that he was doing. But clearly there was substantial evidence to go ahead and make the move to fire a guy and not to worry about a lawsuit or those things that typically prevent a school from acting as quickly as they could. So yeah, I mean, that right there, very, very much, that makes all the sense and fills in giant blank. And yeah, that's what I would have probably guessed, is you're feeding that info to somebody else. The problem I keep coming back to, or the question I keep coming back to, is why? Why? Like, what kind of a sizable bet are we talking about here? Like, were you banking on this to pay your mortgage for the next few years? Like, what level of bet was this that you just had to make this? And so, to me, I don't want to speculate too much, but if you're throwing out a bet like this, like, would it be fair to assume that you've probably done this before?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. I mean, and maybe, I don't know, I don't want to go further speculating, as far as this person and their issue, but like, golly, man, a big-time coaching job like that, and I know they weren't the most successful. There might be some Alabama fans that are like, hell yeah, we can get a better coach in here. So, but at the same time, just why would you risk that? I mean, why would you risk that job for this measly bet? Maybe it wasn't so measly, I guess, is the answer, but what a stupid decision. Just moronic decision.
Yeah, I don't know. And then even if, what if the coach isn't getting anything out of this? What if he's just helping his buddy?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, yeah.
Again, what was this to,
Did you make like $100,000? Okay, but did you make like 10, and was $10,000 worth the freaking, like, the blackballing and the loss of job and all that will come with that? I don't know, man.
He will not work as a college baseball coach ever again.
You wouldn't think so.
It would be real difficult. Pete Rose is not in the Hall of Fame because he was gambling on baseball games. And, of course, people who love Pete Rose, the player, defend that to the death now, including our former late friend, Butch Henry, because they love Pete Rose, the player, but he bet on games as a manager, whether he bet on the Reds or whatever. All that, of course, there is evidence on that. So, yeah, I would think there's also this part of it. I'm not saying this about Bohannon. One of the things about gambling, sometimes people get involved in gambling because they're in trouble in some way.
Sure, yeah. Or it's just an addiction. It's like anything else. It's like drinking or drugs. I mean, I can, understand that to an extent, but it doesn't, stop me, even for people who, like a big-time actor that throws his life, or in theory throws his life away because of a drinking. We're like, gosh, like, how could you throw that? Like, that's the same question I'm kind of having in a reaction right now. And eventually I will say, okay, well, guy had a problem or this or that. I understand that gambling can be as much as of a thing as alcoholism or drug problems and all of that. So I do understand it from that perspective. But yeah, just on the surface, you're like, gosh, was that really worth it? But when you're an addict, which he may or may not be, that's the thing. We don't know, but I would tend to believe probably so, because that's just such a stupid decision.
Yes, 365 Sports. Addictions take all forms.
Sure, yeah, absolutely.
There's more than just what you think of alcohol and drugs. There's addiction to a lot of different things. And in this case, maybe he's hit it a couple of different times. I don't know. Or maybe he was trying to overcome something else and needed the money and thought this will be easy. I can handle this. I'm in charge of what's going to happen here.
If I just flip this 2, make it 4, flip that 4, make it 8, I flip that 8, and they got 16, 32. It's like, I understand the rationale in an addict's mind and on the gambling side of things or any other way, but sure, that answers it, but still just, golly, what a poor decision. People make those, and I'm interested to learn more. And I hope that if that is the case, and it wasn't just some like my buddy talked to me, just some dumb random thing, then I hope that he does get help, because that can go, and obviously clearly has gone very sideways very quickly. I think that's part of why I've never really dipped into gambling. I don't worry too much about getting addicted to it, but I know that's a slippery slope for some people, so you just never know. But
it's a high for some. It's an adrenaline for some.
Yeah, when I was 21, I went to Vegas with my dad, and he was just on a heater the whole weekend, and he just kept winning money left and right. It was like one of those movies where, like, I put the thing in the slot machine. He was doing really well, and I was so wide-eyed about it. And we're sitting in a bar waiting in the sports book, waiting for my mom and sister to get back from seeing Siegfried and Roy, which they did not get to do because Michael Jackson bought the tickets. Another story in all of itself. But we were sitting there waiting, and I was like, Dad, we could make a bet on sports. And he goes, you don't need to do that. I said, why not? He goes, look, I can go here and I can, lose a couple bucks on this blackjack table. Know it's time to move. And I got really lucky on the slot machine. He's like, with sports betting, especially for you who love sports, he's like, it's a slippery slope for you. Like he even said, like, it's, you're always going to be chasing something, and there's so many factors. I can get up in the middle of having a bad run at a blackjack table and leave, right? But
can you?
I mean, he could, I can. Yeah, I can. But like, that's the thing. But because
that one time
you can pick up, but you can pick up your money and love. His point was like, you can get up, you can pick up your money and leave from a blackjack table when you've lost 4 or 5 hands in a row, right? But if I've made a bet, if I bet the Giants to cover in the middle of the game, I realize that's not going to happen. I can't leave.
Right. Yeah.
My money is still there.
Yeah. And I think that, and again, there's people that handle it really well, and there's people that don't. It's like drinking, it's like drugs, it's like whatever else, food, any other number of issues that people have. But I think the thing that like makes this a little different is like you called it on your own team. Like your team was involved, and that, I don't know. It just opens up questions about, was this the first time, which I'm sure Alabama's already delved into. Regardless, he's gone, and they'll go about their way, the rest of the way forward this season. But, it's an interesting story.
We have people who have admitted at times during the last, 3 years that they've come into the chat room late. Is there an excuse for that?
I mean, sure, life.
I mean, okay, there's things going on. So Connor, who's a big Pac-12, I think he is. He talks quite a bit about Pac-12. He came in firing away at Dennis Dodd. So you were late. You have to have a tardy slip. You have to show it to us. Go to the principal's office and come back to the office or the room and hand it to the teacher.
No, you were right, though. I mean, as far as the way that Dodd worded it versus the way that they worded it, about like there's like a slight like little difference in the way it was worded of like they're all out on the what was it?
Dennis said they're all out on tier 1.
Tier 1.
Nicole and Dellinger immediately came back with almost identical wording that
they were standing in the same spot.
That they're not out of it. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. But I thought there was like a little caveat in the way maybe they had worded it to left. Regardless, I mean, if you want to say Dennis Dodd's wrong, that's fine, but you can understand that anybody else could say that those two are wrong, and they're just as right as you are at the moment.
Yeah.
I mean, no one knows other than the people who are feeding the other people that are feeding the rest of the people. So, I mean, you're a Pac-12 guy. I can see where you'd want to side with that reporting. You can see where Big 12 people would want to side with Dennis Dodd's reporting. I have no idea. I'm just sitting back and eating popcorn like most everybody else goes. But, it's in the eye of the beholder who's saying what exactly.
I could give you a really simple potential timeline for this. Dennis Dodd talks to the Big 12 guy, and he says, look, the ESPN told us that they're pretty much out on the Pac-12. Dennis tweets that. Those people, the Nicole and Ross, see it. They are near a Pac-12 source, and they say, hey, what's this about? And then the Pac-12 guy says, well, that's,
Or what if the Pac-12 guy, knowing those two reporters and relies on them or feeds them, and that's what you want. You want your sources and outlets or whatever, contacts, and sends both of them a response to the story.
Right, yeah. There's any number of ways that could have
And they
happened.
trust them. And so, Mansa Musa, how were they able to track the bettor's phone call? Well, Mansa, what they said is they have surveillance video. Mm-hmm. Oh, I see what you're saying, but you could have some guy on the phone. Doesn't mean he's on the phone, but
if you're at the ballpark in Cincinnati, that's where the bet was made. Let's go to the camera 4 that sees where that bet was placed. Who's that guy? Facial recognition. I mean, I'm jumping some.
Can't you track a phone number pretty quickly?
I mean, or track a phone number. But I'm saying, like, as far as if you see somebody place a bet, I would think it's pretty easy to load up camera 3 at 3:15 p.m. when this bet was made and see exactly who made that bet.
And then the other thing is they probably did it from Alabama, because once the Alabama thing came in, Alabama has to look into it. Sure. And it's basically like, okay, everybody, we have to look at your phone records. And then Alabama goes, oh, look at that.
Yep.
Well, what do you know?
Yep. All right.
Nothing's secret these days. Anyway, like nothing's.
You know how they did it? Robots.
Yeah.
Phil Venzer from Vegas. Greetings from the sports capital of the world with the worst college athletics in the nation. Boy, Phil's on that. No, he does not like how things are being run there. Phil is basically in his mid-year retirement. He's a CPA. And so now the tax deadline has passed, and then, of course, you'll start cranking up when all the extensions are filed in October. When we...
Whoa, sorry. Hit the wrong button there.
$10.
Well, I'll pony that up.
That was very relaxing.
Yeah, it was.
It really was. Like you're getting a massage or something like that.
No, but real quick
or
to that
dentist office.
To the person who just texted, who you just mentioned, who was asking the question about how did they track that down. I mean, that is pretty amazing, right? I mean, we kind of laid a very loose way that it could have been found out. That's pretty simple, actually, is just pulling up, all your surveillance. But it is kind of weird how fast that happened, how quickly they were on that. So yeah, it's the world we live in today.
Mansa Musa, Craig, the rational one. I agree. Paul, are you rational?
I'm more rational than you, but I could not say, like, if we were going to have a, who's the most rational off of the three of us, I don't know if I could stay in every round by round with Craig.
Yeah. The only betting story I've shared this, I think when I was on the previous place, but I got $100 from a friend of mine for birthday, but he said, you have to bet on an NFL game. It's not my money. I put the bet on Washington the year they won the Super Bowl. They beat Philadelphia. They eventually covered the number, but they fell behind early in the game by a couple of touchdowns, and I was dying. Even though in the end I won, it was miserable. And that was my, other than going to Vegas or whatever, or Shreveport or WinStar, which I've never been there, it was miserable. And I won. I can't imagine when it's something you do for an everyday living with the adrenaline rush, the good or the bad.
Different strokes, different folks.
Yeah, absolutely. When we come back, Mickey Spagnola, DallasCowboys.com. Now that the draft is over, what's next? Obviously, pretty soon there's meetings, mini camps, whatever they call them these days. This is 365 Sports. Pioneer Steel and Pipe. They've been open since 1943. And I'd been to their place when I first moved to Waco. I remember because they started asking me if I would endorse their company. And so I went there and met with them. Great people. 1943, they opened the doors, and here we are now in 2023, 80 years later, and they're still going. And along the way, locally, like you call mom, pa, it's not that, but locally owned businesses have been forced out because of the huge stores that come in. They get things cheaper, and they have more of it. Pioneer Steel and Pipe just never wavered. Customer service, great product, what people could count on, not just the first time you walked in the door, the repeat customers over, and then they spread the word. And now they have a big, beautiful new building. Since 1943, now they're on the east side of I-35 and Loop 340 and Highway 6. Bigger, better, faster, stronger is what I say, and their distribution is even more efficient, and it was already pretty good. They have more bays, faster ability to get things into your pickup truck or your 18-wheeler, whatever it might be, because now they have more product, and it's easier to get it to you. And the length of their product, pipe, steel, and metal, cut in different lengths, so you don't have to worry about getting it once you get the product. It's amazing. They're amazing. 1943, pioneerboys.com.
The future's bright. The time is now.
College is what you make it. It's a late-night pizza run and all-nighters coding a new project. It's having big dreams and making them a reality. It's a professor who knows your name and your story. It's preparation for your future, your calling, your life. And at Baylor, it's even more. Baylor, where lights shine bright.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
It's time to announce the 13th Annual Academic All-Stars team honoring elite student athletes in Greater Central Texas. Hi, this is David Smoak. We annually recognize student athletes who thrive and succeed in both academic and athletic competition. And here are the female All-Stars: Karis Dietrich Axtell, Talia Gibbs from Killeen, Julia Cosda from West, Ellie Mesher from Salado, Hubbard's Jenna Morris, Crawford's McKenna Post, Iredell Sierra Potter, Ivory Scott from Waco High, Grace Stocker of Abbott, and Kelsey Wettegrove from Clifton.
The 2022-23 Academic All-Star Team is brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, Westdale Asset Management, Southwest Sports Medicine, Allen Samuels Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram, HEB, the McLean Group, Universal Windows Direct, the U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Center, Alliance Bank, Ray Broker AC, Hal Whitaker and Louis Englander Scholarship Fund, IdealMRI.com, Bubba's 33, the Baylor Club, and our 501c3, the Waco Foundation.
We'll honor the 13th Annual Academic All-Stars team at our annual banquet Wednesday, May 17th inside the Presidential Suite at McLean Stadium with Baylor assistant basketball coach Bill Peterson, our guest speaker. We're very proud to recognize the elite student athletes in Greater Central Texas. It's the 13th Annual Academic All-Stars right here on 365 Sports.
TFNB Your Bank for Life is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB Your Bank for Life. Member FDIC.
Hi, this is Paul Catalina. I recently got engaged to the love of my life, but the most important thing that I had to do before I popped the question was get that perfect ring. And I know nothing about rings. So I went to the wedding ring store, Boozer's Jewelers on Valley Mills Drive. I knew I needed a custom design, and that's exactly what they do. 9 out of 10 of their engagement rings are designed in-house. The entire process took less than a month, and they were great every step of the way. Great options on financing, excellent selection, and talented designers. My fiance and I get nonstop compliments on the ring. I only deserve credit for doing the smartest thing I could, walking into Boozer's and letting them work their magic. Your one-of-a-kind fiance deserves a one-of-a-kind ring, and that's what you get at Boozer's. Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store on Valley Mills Drive.
This is 365 Sports. It's time for our weekly segment with Mickey Spagnola of DallasCowboys.com.
Prescott, fire, caught, Lamb, touchdown!
Brought to you by the First National Bank of Central Texas, with 5 locations to serve you.
Mickey Spagnola took the longest of naps after the last pick, I think, on Saturday night. But then again, there's the non-drafted or undrafted free agents and everything else in between. Thanks for your time, Mickey Spagnola, with Paul Craig and David Smoak. So, Mickey, what did Dallas not get that you think they needed after the weekend draft?
Well, I think if you add in what they did with the 3 draft choices they traded before the draft to bring in a wide receiver, a cornerback, and a defensive tackle, I mean, and then consider what's on the team, they didn't get a kicker. That might sound underwhelming, but, you know, Tristan Vizcaino is the only kicker, and he's kind of a journeyman guy that's bounced around from team to team, from tryout to tryout. And their objective in the draft was to get one of those 2 kickers that went in the 3rd round and 4th round. I think they were thinking, well, maybe we can get a kicker in the 5th or 6th round. But those guys didn't last. And so that was, I thought, the most glaring thing. And I know you don't use a draft choice on a kicker, but the situation they're in now, they're going to have to go over the leftovers of veterans that are sitting out there without jobs at this point.
Mickey, I was going to ask you. So it's guys like Robbie Gould or Mason Crosby and maybe not another young guy because they already have Tristan Vizcaino?
Well, and here's the other thing you got to factor in, and I think that's one of the problems with Robbie Gould, who wants a lot of money. He's not a kickoff guy. You would have to have somebody to supplement your kicking game with kickoffs because he's not very good at it. So you would almost saying, well, I got to have 2 guys to replace one. So we'll see where that one goes. I would imagine at some point, much like last year, we're going to have another one of those kicking derbies. Guys come in and you have 3 or 4 guys there and they compete and you choose one of them, right? I think that's what will go on at some point. You know, the veterans out there, I think Ryan Suckup is out there. And I hate to say it, but Brett Maher is still out there also. I know they're very, very lukewarm about, trying to do that again. But again, the guy was pretty darn good except for those, final 2 games where he struggled.
Mickey, but that's like getting back with an ex. It's fun at the beginning, but it's always going to end badly.
Some of the
you got to find out. Yeah. I mean, you got to find out if he still got the yips.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah, and compare that to what's your other alternative. Because for 16 regular season games, he was one of the best kickers in the league.
You see great putters who all of a sudden can't make a 4-foot putt. They get the Jordan Spieth went through a stretch, and it still does on a certain mid-length putt. And you could sit there and be on the practice green and roll 100 in a row. But no matter what, once you get back on the course or in the competition or a football game, man, that's playing head games with you.
Yeah. No, you would probably have to bring in more than a kicking coach, right? Maybe a psychiatrist or whatever to try to straighten them out. But again, it'll be interesting to see how they take care of, because they really thought that they could draft a young kicker. And I think only 3 went, and they were only interested in 2. The one that they were most interested is the guy from Maryland, Ryland.
Chad Rylance?
It was, that guy. So, I mean, And you know, and kickers in college, you know, it's never a sure thing when you do that. So, but they got themselves in this situation. Now they got to figure it out.
Mickey, does Mazi Smith a day one starter? Maybe not in the truest sense of the word, but expected to see tons of reps early?
Yeah, I would think, you know, he's going to get at least 30 snaps a game early, rotating with Jonathan Hankins. And it'll just be a matter of how quickly he adapts. And, you know, you check it out in training camp and preseason games and then go from there. But, you know, by everything I've read about him, heard about him, yeah, he's one of those, you know, immovable forces in the middle. And that's exactly what they've needed. You know, they went into this draft knowing that 11 of 17 regular season opponents ran for 100 yards against them and at least 136 in all 5 regular season losses. So they needed to address that. They needed to do something to improve that, and they did so with what 3 of their first 4 picks, getting defensive guys, bringing in Overshawn and Junior Fihoko, who they've listed as he was listed at San Jose State as a defensive end, but they played a 3-4. He sure looks like a 3 technique defensive tackle to me. And you know, they can probably move him inside. So, they've taken a shot with those first 4 picks, to try to improve one of their weaknesses, and it was the run defense. Think about it. They gave up 207 yards in the loss to Green Bay, 192 in the loss to Jacksonville. You just can't have that. And I don't care if it's rushing yards from the quarterback or whatever. You got to have somebody to anchor that middle. And if Mazi Smith is what it seems like he is, then to have a guy that strong up the middle, maybe that'll discourage Philadelphia from running so many of those 3rd-and-1 quarterback sneaks, which aren't sneaks, which are quarterback shoves from behind.
You know, Mickey, there's nothing to me more demoralizing. Yeah, you can give up the 375-yard touchdown passes, and that would be terrible. But there's nothing more demoralizing. I remember the Rams playoff game, like, I don't know, in the last 3 or 4 years or so.
2018.
Yeah. How about the game when Dickinson and the Rams back in the day, in the, I think, early 80s, ran right through them?
83 and 85.
Yes. And is there anything more demoralizing? Russell Maryland was the last elite defensive tackle that they took in the first round. He was the last defensive tackle when the Cowboys had like 5 of them in that time when Jimmy was compiling talent. Is that something they need to do better?
Yeah, because you know what? They have not prioritized that position for a long time. It was like, okay, we prioritize defensive ends on defense, cornerbacks, then linebackers, and then you get around to defensive tackles. So they've just kind of filled in with, you know, 2nd to 3rd round picks at the defensive tackle. But usually there are 3 technique defensive tackles, not a run-stopping nose tackle to clog things up. And if you go back and look at last year when they made that draft deadline trade for Hankins, the run defense picked up, and then he got hurt, and then it fell apart again. So, yeah, I think that this pick at 26 wasn't a like, oh, well, what's left? We'll just take that guy. They were telling the story in the draft press conference, the post-draft press conference, that Mike McCarthy basically pointed out that when they left the last draft meeting on Wednesday night, he said he elbowed Jerry and said, hey, Mazi, right? And that's how it kind of turned out.
Mickey Spagnola with us, DallasCowboys.com, the week after the NFL draft.
Mickey, who is the most intriguing undrafted free agent to you?
I'm going to forget his first name. Lupke,
Hunter.
the fullback.
Yeah.
Fullback from North Dakota State, right?
Yep.
I saw a look, I think it was on NFL.com. They had listed the top 3 undrafted free agents by position, and it wasn't fullback they listed. They listed running back, and he was the second guy because not only did he play fullback to him, they handed the ball to him. And if you look at Mike McCarthy's history at Green Bay, he liked using fullback. And you know, they're a dying breed. No one in college shows up and goes, "Hey, coach, I want to be the fullback." Right? It doesn't happen. And they don't use one just because of the way the offenses are run. So normally in the NFL, to find one, you got to convert a linebacker to fullback. So instead of having to use, if he makes the team, a tight end to play fullback, and those guys weren't raised to be lead blockers, or having to put a defensive tackle or an offensive guard, you know, Connor McGovern at fullback, you might be able to use this guy as a fullback, and it's a threat to hand him the ball. I'm trying to remember the guy's name in Green Bay where McCarthy just used the guy over and over again against the Cowboys. I think it was Kuhn, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And he drove the Cowboys crazy. I think he had a couple touchdowns in the game, and they weren't from 1 and 2 yards out either. And the guy can catch the ball. So to me, that caught my attention on that list that I'm sure by the time they get here next week, there'll be about 20 of those undrafted guys.
Mickey, how fast do you think they move on kicker?
Oh, I mean,
there's no
playing
real
tomorrow.
deadline, yeah.
Yeah, there's no deadline. So, you know, when these veteran kickers, you know, see it's, you know, the second week in May and everybody's having OTAs or whatever, and they don't have a job, you know, the price probably goes down. And they'll be more willing to get on that kicking caravan and go from team to team for either tryouts or, you know, competitions to see how they can fill that. And, you know, we'll see what happens with Vizcaino. You know, they had brought him in before. They had him for a while. So, you know, who knows where he's at. But they got to, you know, with all how close these games are, the close shades that they've played, the overtime games, man, you got to have a reliable kicker.
Mickey, for trivia reasons, the thought is that Russell Maryland was the last first-round pick at defensive tackle that the Cowboys took, but didn't they take Kelvin Pritchett in that same draft in the first round?
Yeah, but that was a trade.
Okay.
They didn't get the trade done in time with Detroit, so they had to make their pick, and they took Pritchett for Detroit, and then Detroit gave them, I forgot what it was, but it was, I think it was a maybe two picks in that year.
Okay.
So yeah, technically they did that, but that was okay. We'll do this if you do that for us.
All right, so here's something, and I know we got to go. Craig's off the radar is next. So their first ever pick was Bob Lilly. He turned out to be pretty decent defensive tackle.
He was okay.
He was a workman.
Yeah. You know what? But you got to go to Randy White, I believe.
Randy White was actually considered when he was drafted. Was he considered a linebacker from Maryland?
Well, it's listed a defensive tackle. I think Tom Landry tried to get too cute to make him a linebacker.
Oh, okay.
And that failed.
All right, so he was pretty good.
Right, and then I saw somebody list Kevin Brooks, but Kevin Brooks was technically
he was a defensive end.
And a bad one at that.
And then the best one ever was Danny Noonan.
And then Danny Noonan, right.
Yeah, from Nebraska. He was...
So they really never prioritized, even back then, although, you know, you had Bob Lilly all those years, and then he retired, I think it was in 74, and then Randy White showed up.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing. That's pretty amazing.
So, and those guys had long careers, right? So the need for one of those guys wasn't that great.
Thank you very much, Mickey. Enjoy at least the post-draft, and a lot going on still at the Star in Frisco when players start to get together, and I get confused now. I know it's not quite as often as it used to be, But Mickey Spagnola with us. When is if you don't mind, we got to go. When do they all converge on the Star?
The rookie mini camp is next week, but they've already started their on-field off-season program with the coaches. And then don't forget the AMC Awards are next week.
That's right.
At the Star.
At the Star.
Are you getting to go, Mickey?
You know what? I was supposed to apply for a press pass, and things got away from me, and I didn't get around to do it because I would have gone to see it.
I think
But I've got my hands full with going to the Stars game, especially tonight.
Yep, there you go. Thank you, man. Enjoy that. In fact, tonight, the Stars and the Kraken in the National Hockey League playoffs. This is 365 Sports, and Craig Smoak's Off the Radar is next. Marco's Pizza. Just a handful of years ago, there was none here in Waco. There was nothing around the Waco area. Now there are 5 stores. Bob Mock has been in the pizza business for a long, long, long time. From driving to then running the store to now owning 5 locations in Waco in the area. China Spring and Belmead. Belmead, when we deliver Marco's to the studio, they're the ones that do it. They're the closest store. 2 on the southern part of Waco with both Woodway and Hewitt. And then 1 in Robinson on kind of the southeast part of on the east side of I-35. It's a fantastic pizza. Marco's Pizza. Pizza lovers get it. The pepperoni and or sausage Magnifico is there, and that's become a big one. When we order, we get thin crust, the Chicago cut, which is square cut, whether it's pepperoni, Magnifico, or both, and it is fantastic. They have pizza bowls if you want, sandwiches, what you need, they have it. Bob Mock, Marco's Pizza, 5 locations in Waco. Marco's Pizza. Pizza lovers get it.
It's the season at Allen Samuels in Waco to find the vehicle that's right for you. Get amazing deals on new Ram trucks, Jeep SUVs, Chrysler sedans, and minivans, or a sporty Dodge. At Allen Samuels, we're committed to taking care of our customers, and that means having as much new inventory on hand for you to choose from. Of course, if we don't have exactly what you want in stock, we can help you build the custom car, truck, SUV, or van of your dreams. And order it today. Shop Allen Samuels, DCJ.com, or come in to see us today at Allen Samuels in Waco.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financials, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Ben Erlinson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Ben Erlinson, 100 North 6th Street in Waco, 254-759-8533. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, a wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trust. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
Waco Custom Marketplace is your hometown grocery store with a full-service butcher shop and bakery. Hi, this is David Smoak. The butcher shop can take your customized orders for seafood, pork, and poultry and custom cut your favorite steaks from bacon-wrapped fillets to T-bone to bone-in ribeyes. Cut specifically the way you want. They have Norwegian salmon fillets, catfish fillets, sliced ham or turkey and lunch meat, variety of cheese available, and several options of sausage links. Fresh chicken breast or whole chickens, sliced bacon, pork chops, ground beef, marinated beef, and chicken fajitas, and always large briskets available, plus fresh vegetables. So the great product, customer service, and family tradition of the Bauer family continues at Waco Custom Marketplace, open Monday through Saturday. A full-service butcher shop and bakery available. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
Automatic Chef Canteen is a full-service micro-market vending and office coffee provider with state-of-the-art vending equipment, a wide variety of products, and offering custom-fitted micro-market vending office coffee solutions for your employee break room. You want a full break room solution and a workplace oasis? Well, Automatic Chef Canteen, locally owned and operated for over 50 years in Central Texas, also includes in-house mechanics on call 24/7 for fast, reliable service and maintenance. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchefcanteen.com.
Three Nations Brewing Company has 16 different beers on draft with a new beer every Friday. It also offers 2 air-conditioned tap rooms, a large indoor beer hall, a second-floor mezzanine offering a great overview of the brewing company and equipment and patio where you can relax under the shade. Plus, you can now experience the new Three Nations Beer Garden Grill on our shaded patio. Grab a cold beer and enjoy a bite from our freshly prepared and delicious menu. Street tacos, quesadillas, freshly cooked burgers and dogs, and veggie burgers too. Nachos and so much more, all prepared and cooked on site. So come visit the award-winning Three Nations Brewing Company on East Vandergrift off I-35 in Carrollton.
This is Craig Smoak's Off the Radar, presented by Alliance Bank. They take pride in making banking easy. AllianceBankTexas.com.
All right, welcome into Off the Radar here on 365 Sports, a segment twice a week, Tuesdays and Thursdays around this time, to take a look at just a grab bag of stories that otherwise we might not necessarily get to or might not spend much time on. I will say, as far as just kind of outside the box of college football or the NFL even, great sports weekend is on tap, and I'll get to some of the reasons why here in a second. But first things first, I got a Rangers cap on, and there is some Rangers news as far as some of the injuries for my lifelong favorite that has broken my heart more times than it's probably made my heart jump for joy, but that's okay. I still love them, and right now they are on top of the AL West by a game over the Angels. The Astros are 2.5 games back. Mariners 4 back. You don't care about that so much, but the Rangers are in first place. However, they've had some injury issues here lately. Corey Seager has been out there, all-star shortstop, but apparently he could be back next week, although he may need a rehab assignment. And I guess the news that a lot of people were waiting on was Jacob deGrom. Obviously, their big-time off-season acquisition and starting pitcher who had to leave a game early last week with what they were calling forearm tightness. And that was immediately a red flag because for people who follow baseball closely, or just medical people, I suppose, forearm tightness is a sign that you could be needing a Tommy John surgery. That's one of the symptoms, but fortunately, that doesn't appear to be the case here. Corey Seager's expected to be back next week, but in the biggest news, Jacob deGrom, yes, he is going to miss another few weeks, according to the Rangers, but they said that the MRI revealed inflammation, treatment was prescribed, and that's going to have to take place before he's allowed to resume baseball activity. It's still unclear days or weeks how long that will take, but they said that he's not that far away from starting to play catch. Bruce Bochy, Rangers manager, said he hasn't started throwing yet, but he feels great. We're in probably that 3-week area for deGrom's return, and we're almost a week into that now. So we will see. Seager, meanwhile, is coming back from a left hamstring strain, is not a big rehab guy, so he's making his way back. And deGrom, so far, I'll wait to be seen, but it looks like he's not going to need Tommy John. That would be that would be awful, awful news for him. But you can breathe a little bit right now. I don't know if you can breathe all the way just yet, though.
I thought it's too good to be true.
Well, this is what,
and you have to deal with that with him.
Yes.
Don't you?
With anybody.
Yeah, really. But especially particularly with him, is like his history dictates that. Sometimes teams think he'll be healthy this time, but if you've got a history, look, you're going to have to deal with it. The Cowboys are finally, have a plan with Tyron Smith where they're like, look, we have to plan for him not to be here for all the games. It took him a long time to do that. The Rangers, had to at least know in part of their, planning for this is that, it's going to be worth it when he plays, but hopefully we can get the most out of him.
Whip is walks and hits per inning. He is tied with Clayton Kershaw and Joe Ryan, who are both 10-1 combined for the lowest whip in baseball, which is one of the stats that's kind of come about over the years, like slugging percentage in baseball. He is absolutely elite at what he does, and he stays. If they can get, what would you say, 25 or 30 starts out of him would be, no, I don't know if they can get that many. If they have a chance to be in this for a long, long time, because Perez is pitching well. Some of the other guys are pitching well enough. So he's the best pitcher in baseball when healthy.
Yeah, and to be clear on my Tommy John comment, I mean, he has had it before. It was also over a decade ago. I was just saying in general with pitchers, you got to be worried about, potential there. But yeah, certainly with DeGrom, just injury-wise in general, he has had a lot of different issues. And yeah, that's something that you worry about with him. So doesn't look like that's on the table right now. We will see. Again, another few weeks. We'll see. The Rangers are a good team just in general, but they obviously would like to have him and would need to have him to really go where they want to go ultimately. But that's, again, the risk that you ran when signing him to begin with. Meanwhile, one NFL transaction, Giants have signed All-Pro D-tackle Dexter Lawrence to a 4-year, $90 million extension. That includes $60 million guaranteed and will make Dexter Lawrence the third highest paid D-tackle in all of the NFL. Puts him in the category of the Aaron Donalds and those types of guys. But any particular thought on that, just being an NFC East move there?
I think it's a great move for the Giants. They've in the last couple of years, finally starting to look like the Giants again. Making smart decisions and building their defense, building their lines. I don't know how, forever. I mean, you have 2 Super Bowls with Eli, and I know that, people, have split opinions on him, but you have to maximize the time when you have an elite quarterback like you did. And Eli's last few years, yeah, I know some of it's on him, but if you look at the offensive lines they were throwing out in front of him as he's getting older, what did you expect? And for years they just kind of thought that, or their assessments of the offensive line were always just whiff. So now offensive line's good, defensive line with Dexter Lawrence continues to get better. Yeah, I don't think they're quite, because maybe, quarterback-wise, Daniel Jones, we'll see how that is, but they're getting to the point where they're making good decisions.
You have to in that division. It's like the American League East. Everyone's good, even though the Red Sox are near the bottom or the Yankees are near the bottom. Everyone's above 500. You have Philadelphia that seems to have gotten better. Dallas seems to have gotten better. Washington was 8-1. You can't sit around or you will be lapped in that division. So good for the Giants for doing that.
Yep, so there's one transaction and a guy getting taken care of. Meanwhile, tonight in the NBA, got one game. And last night, I don't know if y'all saw, but the Celtics taking the 76ers to the woodshed, 121-87. Just blowout city to take the lead there in that series. Meanwhile, tonight, we get game number 2 of the Western Conference semis. The Lakers at the Warriors, 8 p.m. Central on ESPN. Lakers lead that series 1-0. And this is the series that I think if you're looking for massive ratings, if it was happening later on, they'd probably be even more massive. The fact that it's still the conference semifinals don't quite put all of the pressure on it that there could be. But I saw this pointed out on Sports Media Watch. First playoff series in 4 years between LeBron and Steph, arguably the 2 most popular guys in this era. So you have that going for you. And that first game delivered, averaging over 7.3 million viewers on TNT, largest first or second round audience on cable television in 11 years. The last that mark that it broke was Lakers Thunder back in 2012, a Game 5 that had a little over 8 million viewers. But, huge ratings early on for Steph versus LeBron, and we'll get Game 2 later on tonight, and we'll see what the Lakers can do, how interesting they can make this. They jump up. I know plenty of people predicted them to win this series just based on the way that they were playing and based on strengths and weaknesses, and they went up and grabbed Game 1. Obviously, Anthony Davis had a huge showing. So tonight, you want star power. There's star power on the court later on.
Kobe Bryant was on the Lakers, and the late Kobe Bryant. Gasol, Dwight Howard, Steve Nash, met a world peace against what was probably the early part of Kevin Durant and James Harden. Am I right? You think with that Oklahoma City, and the Thunder and Westbrook. I don't know. If,
yeah, that was them.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
So that's later on tonight. Lakers at Warriors. NHL Game 2. Panthers at the Maple Leafs. That's 6 o'clock on TNT. Panthers lead that series 1-0. Game 2. The Seattle Kraken at the Dallas Stars.
I just love that name.
Gets underway at 8:30 p.m. and Seattle leads that series 1-0. Garrett, any thoughts on the Game 2 mini preview from the Stars' perspective?
This is one they definitely need to win. I think when you go back and watch Game 1. Yeah, well, I mean, look, Game 1, Seattle's pace was something that the Wild didn't show Dallas. And then, obviously, you had Joe Pavelski come back, and he got 2 quick goals for the Stars. But they kind of went into a slump. They found themselves in the third. Unfortunately, weren't able to capitalize in overtime. But I expect a big night. Probably see Tyler Seguin go off. And I expect Jake Auditor to bounce back with a good performance guarding the net.
You can't lose your first 2 games, and they're both home. You could go 0-2 on the whole. Even that's hard to do. You go 0-2 at home. I mean, I'm not saying no one can come back from that, but that would be like heartburn right there.
Yeah, that would be difficult. I mean, you like you said, to go down 0-2 and then you go on the road. That's a tough one. Saw this as well. Taylor Lewin, who's delved into sports media, and that's certainly the path that he's going to be on. But former NFL offensive lineman, member of the Tennessee Titans, 3-time Pro Bowler, he's filed a suit against Dr. James Andrews for medical malpractice, stemming back to October 2020 when Lewin had a surgery to repair his torn right ACL that apparently, according to the lawsuit, left him with severe and permanent damage. This was filed in a Florida court on Tuesday night. But there are others involved with the Andrews, like the Andrews Institute's mentioned, and the medical group that's involved, and the healthcare system. And so anybody that had anything to do with his surgery is basically on this. But Dr. James Andrews is obviously the headliner because he's the repairman to the Stars when it comes to injuries and whatnot. But the lawsuit accuses the defendants of improper repair. They caused permanent injury to his right knee and the surrounding structures, including tendons and cartilage and ligaments, and that those acts of negligence and omissions cut his NFL career short. Of course, the Andrews side had no comment on this, but he originally injured his right ACL back in October of 2020. He got put on IR, had surgery over a week later, came back the following season, started 13 games, but said that it was a really tough year. Like that it was a grind, I think is the way that he put it, and then tore it again in the second game of 2022. And he was released this past February after 9 years. He had a little less than $15 million that was supposed to be headed his way. So he is suing Dr. James Andrews and amongst others for negligence and saying that they should have used a specific type of graft and things like that. So that'll be very interesting given just how involved Dr. James Andrews has been with so many sports injuries over the years.
I'll tell you what, there was a little bit of a beating back when the RG3 thing happened, because he was the Redskins. He was their orthopedic surgeon. He was their team guy, and
I wonder how many surgeries he really does anymore because he's quite elderly. But I know that. Look, you've seen doctors that don't really do the surgeries anymore, and they'll walk in and be like, "This is
observe,
boom, that's what's the problem." And they're like, "Oh, thanks."
Yeah, I mean, he can still have a role if he's not the one with the knife in his hands. Yeah. But regardless, he's a part of this lawsuit from Taylor Lewin, so we will see how that goes in the courtroom or if it's settled or what have you there. But didn't appear as though Lewin was asking for, like $70 million to offset everything. But he is looking to recoup some of the money lost because it feels like his NFL career could have continued on with a bit better job by the doctors involved. And I mentioned at the top, just kind of run this down. It's a big sports weekend. You got the NBA playoffs that will again resume tonight, and NHL playoffs that will resume tonight, and those will all go into the weekend as well. But you also got a big UFC card, and there was some UFC news coming out. It's not the biggest card, but there is a title on the line. The bantamweight title champion Aljamain Sterling will be defending against a very popular and very good fighter, and could very well walk away with the belt in Henry Cejudo. That'll take place out in Newark, New Jersey, here in a couple of days on Saturday night. But you also have the news coming out from the UFC side of things that Jon Jones is looking at the end of his career now, having climbed the mountain and fallen back down it and climbed it again and fell back down it, and he climbed it again, and he won the World Heavyweight Championship earlier this year. He is set up to face former champion Stipe Miocic at Madison Square Garden in New York City in November. And Jones says that he thinks that might be the last time that he steps into the octagon as a fighter, saying, I think the Stipe fight will be plenty for me. I feel like I don't have too much to prove after beating Stipe Miocic. I've been in the game for a long time. In fighter years, I'm an old guy. I've been training a long time, been in the game a long time. I just really want to be around for my family, be around for my kids. I want to be able to play with my kids, have a good head on my shoulders. I could see it coming to an end really soon, and I'm happy with that. I'm really proud of my career. So he was asked, like, well, what about so-and-so? And what about so-and-so? You know, new guys that he could fight. When it came to Sergey Pavlovich, who is one of the top contenders, said that no one knows who he is. So he's not, he's looking for big name, big money fights. And with that in mind, said he is open or would be interested if somehow or another they could get Francis Ngannou to come to the table and agree to terms and have this big mega super fight that was supposed to have happened, probably already a couple times if things had worked out the way they were supposed to. But Dana White says that Ngannou will never fight for the UFC again after they negotiated with him for like 2 years.
That real big monster-looking
huge dude,
guy, yeah.
But he's not in the UFC any longer, and so that would be the one fight that Jones says could potentially keep him on the hook and motivate him enough, but that's not going to happen most likely. So, Stipe Miocic, Jon Jones coming up at MSG. That could very well be it for Jon Bones Jones.
They've never fought, right? I was thinking about Jones being too old. He's 35. Stipe's
starting to get up
40.
there, in terms of a fighter.
Yeah, I mean,
Stipe's what?
I think it says he's 40. Stipe Miocic, yeah.
So he's up, yeah. I mean, they're getting up there. These guys have been around a long time now. It's like they just popped on the scene a couple of years ago.
I've heard of both of them, and it's going to be interesting. But I thought, man, what happens, and Foreman was the different. He was the outlier, right? As you get older, and you just can't give it up. It's that taste, it's that adrenaline, it's the money, it's the crowd, and you see him just get pummeled.
Foreman kind of did get lucky. And the fact that the matchup was so good for him and what was going on. But
he just, there's a movie coming out about it. He just transformed into using his size and his advantage rather than against him.
Yeah.
So elsewhere this weekend, the Kentucky Derby will also be ongoing. There's some controversy with some horses dying, and there's a whole thing there that's there's kind of a mystery as to what exactly is happening. But the Kentucky Derby is going on as scheduled, and also so you have it's UFC pay-per-view, you have NBA playoffs, NHL playoffs, Kentucky Derby, and also Canelo Alvarez is fighting, and he's fighting back in his home country of Mexico. First fight in Mexico in more than 11 years. His IBF, WBA, WBO, and WBC super middleweight titles will be on the line as he faces British left-hander John Ryder. So it will be Canelo defending a bunch of belts against the Brit and lefty and John Ryder, and back on his home soil and in the ring for the first time in over a decade. So you can imagine that will be quite the scene, I would imagine, in Mexico this weekend. So Zapopan, Mexico, where that's happening on Saturday night. So, a lot coming up here over the next few days, and those are a few things that are off the radar. And actually, Paul sent me one story as well, and I need to pull that up because you were kind enough to do that and to send that to me. But this is from Pro Football Talk. Two USC journalism students who were on assignment to cover the NFL draft for the student outlet, the student paper. Well, they have found themselves in trouble. Eric Lampkins II and Jude Ocañas were arrested by the Kansas City Police Department for stealing more than $1,000 worth of jerseys from first-round draft picks. They were working for Annenberg Media, which is a news outlet under the USC Annenberg School for Communication and Journalism. They were caught on video surveillance going into an area that their credentials did not allow them to go into at 1:20 a.m. on Friday night. One of the guys had a bag in the talent waiting room. They left 5 minutes later with a bag that looked much fuller than it was when they first walked in. And the NFL had reported that there was a Cowboys jersey, a Vikings jersey, and a 49ers jersey, and all of them had the number 1 stitched on it that they were all missing. But they were, they described the jerseys, no player names. Later on, they found the Cowboys 49ers jerseys in one of the students' baggage after arresting them as they boarded a plane back to L.A. So what a trip. What a memorable trip, work assignment for those 2 USC students, busted stealing draft jerseys, and I can't wait to hear what the follow-up to that is. It won't be at the Annenberg School, I can tell you that much. Because
some knucklehead walked into the Patriots Super Bowl championship locker room and took Tom Brady's jersey. Access is still there, but it's not nearly as many who used to have post-game access into the locker room. Yeah, so... All right, Craig.
Yeah, those guys are in trouble. Obviously, not good career moves or good life moves, but I guess it was too tempting, and those are a few things off the radar.
One note about the Lakers, Darvin Ham, Texas Tech alum, of course, is their head coach. He's done a great job managing all of those stars and injuries. When we come back, he's a local Central Texas hero, is Kelvin Beacham, Arizona Cardinals football player, and, of course, much more. I've told you about how he's an entrepreneur and so much more. He's got a great event going on this weekend at Baylor. Kelvin Beacham, live with us next on 365 Sports. The mother-daughter brunch at the City of Woodway in the Carling Bright Arboretum coming up on May 13th. That's Saturday, the day before, May 13th, inside the Pavilion Event Center at the Carling Bright Arboretum. I drove by there the other day. Highway 6, the light that you can go and get on the loop in Highway 6 to go towards the middle of Waco or the other part of Waco, it was stacked up. So I went straight, drove by all of the new buildings. They're also working on what they do with all that arena type is being rebuilt or renovated too. They've done amazing. And the mother-daughter brunch coming up on May 13th, the day before Mother's Day, 11 a.m. until 1:30, $35 a ticket. Delicious food, great music, fun crafts, and even more surprises along the way. Mothers, daughters, grandmothers, and more. Go to discoverwoodway.com for more information.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Richard Carr is loaded with GMC Sierra trucks. Make your best deal in years. Step up to premium grade GMC Sierra and save thousands at Richard Carr. Right now, qualified buyers get 2.9% financing and $3,000 in savings on most new 2023 GMC Sierra SLE, SLT 1500s in stock. Call now, get here now, or log on to richardcarr.com and drive home your new GMC Sierra today. See dealer for details.
Richard Carr, they have the truck for you.
Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive is premier, elite, life-changing experience where you can change your mind, body, and soul. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness offers over 40 group exercise classes each week, including boot camp, indoor cycling, and more. If you haven't been there in quite some time, you're missing out on the improvements for our members. New flooring in the weight room and locker rooms, new paint and mirrors added in the weight room and group exercise room, with more new machines arriving over the next few months. New free weights, weight machines, TRX, rowing machines, stationary bikes, new treadmills, new elliptical machines on spacious weight room floor. Personal training with Christy London, Randall Corley, and Alex Botch, where you will be encouraged and motivated to grow. There's sauna, whirlpool, tanning bed, and kids club. The amenities are great. 16 tennis courts plus an 1,100-seat stadium court, 8 pickleball courts, youth and adult tennis and pickleball lessons. Visit our website, wacotennis.com, or visit Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
one size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one size fits all strategy. Cam Heathcott, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why we take the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Cam Heathcott in Conroe at 936-756-7717. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
TFNB Your Bank for Life is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB Your Bank for Life. Member FDIC.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com.
The 5 o'clock hour is brought to you by Edward Jones and financial advisor Cam Heathcott. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
You know, we get a chance, and over the years, 42 years of covering sports and also high school football, college football, and you get to know some of the young men. Earlier this afternoon, we had Quinton Johnston from TCU and Temple High School, now with the Chargers, who joined us on the great weekend that he had. And you get to know young men, and you watch them grow into more than just sports or athletes or whatever. And, man, this might be numero uno. Kelvin Beacham joins us, Arizona Cardinals offensive lineman, Mejia High School and SMU graduate, on 365 Sports, who has an incredible exhibition going on at Baylor this weekend. Kelvin, in fact, joins us by video. And, Kelvin, it's great to have you. You have become more than a football player. When did that kind of become part of your life, or what you wanted to become part of your life?
Man, down in Mejia, Texas, to be honest with you. You know, I was playing football, but at the end of the day, my grandpa expected me on the drums Sunday morning and Thursday night for church. My daddy expected me in the shop when I wasn't in school. So, man, this was born and bred into me in the fabric of who I am early on in my childhood. So I've been blessed to have to wear a number of hats prior to being an athlete there at Mejia High School and being a student athlete there at SMU.
Kelvin, where did this, I mean, I know your wife is certainly part of that, but this love of art come that you're starting out here?
Man, it happened actually when we first got married. Our first honeymoon was on a Royal Caribbean cruise to the Caribbean. And, you know, being a young couple, we wanted to do something that kind of commemorated it. So, you know, ran up on or stumbled upon a piece of art on that cruise ship. And that was the piece that started this journey. And then I would say as we've traveled and as we went to different locations and played for different teams, we've been able to spend time in different markets and just be exposed to different histories that we didn't know about through being able to go and explore art. It's another way to be exposed to culture. And it's been something that we found fascinating and excited to be able to share it with those there in Waco and abroad.
Jessica is your wife, graduated from Baylor back in 2011. Of course, you're from SMU. That's where you graduated, and now a part of the NFL. So what's happening? It's this Saturday. We'll see. Well, private reception May the 5th. Is going to be on display May 6th at the Martin Museum of Art at Baylor. Where have you been storing some of this artwork?
Well, what was not able to stay in the house, we put it in the museum. So it's a large work that's on canvas there at the Martin Museum by this artist Von Span, that it just can't live in our house. It's literally too big. And it's been at the Phoenix Art Museum for the last couple of years, and this is the first time that it's traveled since we've acquired it, and it's actually going to be there on view for the next couple months there at the Martin Museum there in Waco. So when it's not able to be in our house, we try to put it in the museum. We try to loan the work to other institutions because it's about the artist. You know, as an athlete, so many people and, you know, hear about, you know, how popular we are and role models we are, but it's something about being able to shine a light on somebody else and shine a light on artists that are critical and intellectual and, you know, are able to investigate things that we may not think about in our everyday life. And I think that's what's most fascinating about this work and about this exhibition is this exploration into somebody else's mind that we get to go on as we embark on seeing their work and seeing the impact of their work, not only in society, but in kind of our everyday lives.
Kelvin, also back home in Mexia, another food drive out there. How can people get involved in that?
You know, if you got time, come on down to Mexia, Texas. We're giving away food. We're giving away food, man. Please register. We're serving about 500 families, but we want to make sure those who are registered are able to get access to that food first. But y'all know for many years, you know, Smoak, we've been doing this for a long time, man. This has always been my heart, is being able to serve people and being able to feed people. I'm an offensive lineman at the end of the day. I love to eat. I want to make sure folks have the same opportunity to do so. So, you know, partnering with Central Texas Food Bank in collaboration with HEB down there in Mexia, and excited to feed those who are interested in stopping by. That's going to be happening Friday morning. So me and my son are actually at the barbershop getting our haircut right now, and we're going to be heading to Texas in a little bit, and excited to spend time with those there in Mexia and those there in Waco.
By the way, Andrea Cameron, Josh plays at Baylor, sent me this note when we mentioned that you were going to be on the show, that your grandfather was close friends with, I believe, Josh's grandfather, who plays at Baylor and in the ministry, Reverend Cleophas Cameron. Is that right?
Well, that was so. Elder Cameron was my grandfather's, one of his best friends. And my grandfather is, I mean, he's creeping up 90, 94 and beyond. So, you know, when you get to that age, people forget how old you really are. But I used to go to Elder Cameron's church all the time there in Waco for church and for services. Grandfather used to have revivals all the time. But we have a lot of connections religiously there in the area. Pastor Gillum was where my wife went to church there in Waco. Elder Dixon, Ahmad Dixon, who was a Baylor grad. Elder Dixon he used to run revivals at my grandfather's church in Mexia. So there's a number of religious ties there in Waco, which, you know, this feels like coming home. Even though Baylor didn't recruit me, I'm not going to hold it against them. But it feels like coming home.
Yeah, they probably they know they made a mistake. I don't care who they had. They made a mistake. You're involved in so much. I remember when we were in San Francisco covering the Super Bowl. You were there to learn about technology and obviously what was going on in that area. Kelvin, you know, it's like you just keep soaking new things into your system or into your life. How busy are you?
I'm as busy as I need to be, man. You know, the thing is I had a coach, Frank Gans, who coached for the Rams when they won the Super Bowl in 99, and he was the coach at SMU until he passed away. And he had this quote: ongoing skill and technique development. As an offensive lineman, my skill and my technique has to be ongoing. I have to continue to get better. I see those same type of principles and concepts reign true in my life. It's to be able to have this ongoing skill and technique development. It's learning new skills. It's developing those skills in a different way. I want to be a role model for my children. I want my children to realize that it's not just enough to live off my loins. You shouldn't be playing football when after you graduated. You should have a much better education. So understanding that I'm setting the stage and setting the foundation for what I want my kids to have long term and my generations to have, once I'm done. And my grandfather used to say this to my father: I want you to go, farther than I did. And my dad would say to me all the time: I want you to go farther than I did. I'm making it really hard on my children because they got to go farther than I did. Mm-hmm. And I want the next generation to be able to do so as well.
Kelvin, the draft just happened. You've got a new young pup coming in there, Paris Johnson, on the offensive line. I know that you get excited about having new teammates, especially ones that you get to mentor directly, at that position. What do you think the future is? New coach, everything that's going on there in Arizona for you guys?
Man, it's new culture. You know, it's a revamp of the process and being able to revamp that process to put the organization, you know, in the right frame of mind to be able to win football games. You know, at the end of the day, this is a high-performance business. The only thing that matters is winning football games. If you're not winning football games, you don't get to be in the league. I mean, you saw that with the head coach of the Bucs that just got fired, you know, a couple moments ago. You don't win games, even though they, you know, was the regular season champs and you know, had the number 1 seed. It's about winning championships. And if you're not winning championships, you don't have a job. And the same reigns true in the National Football League. So it's being able to retool, reorganize, you know, build the process to be a little better, and then kind of roll from there.
Kelvin and Jessica Beacham again will open the exhibition at Baylor University May the 5th for a couple of months. It's on the campus, Martin Museum of Art. So how much have you learned, not just what art is, there's a lot, art can tell stories. You learn and meet other artists like you meet other teammates in football. How much of that it was like something you never thought you would get into and now you can't get enough of it?
Man, I'm addicted to art, to be honest with you, man. I've been buying art and don't need to tell my wife now. Don't tell her that. But, I mean, it's fascinating because you get to see and get to peer into histories you didn't know about. Like, you know, Brown versus Board, you know, that momentous court hearing. I didn't realize it was multiple Brown versus Board hearings and Brown versus Board cases. And I learned that through Tamashi Jackson. She's going to be one of the artists that's in the collection. You know, Mario Moore goes into kind of personal histories and bringing those histories into the forefront. It's this conversation around, you know, I'm not into magic, but this conversation of being able to have this conscious being that may be, you know, around you or in your presence. That may be something that you've had carrying, burden that you've been carrying with you, or this joy that you always have. You know, and that's been depicted by Dominique Chambers. So it's all these different stories and histories that I find fascinating. And what I love the most is it's learning that I get to have and learning that my family gets to have from spending time with these artists. And it's been cool to go up to New Haven and spend time with Dominique Chambers. It's been cool to spend time with Mario Moore. It's been cool to spend time with Tamashi Jackson. Raleigh Vasquez, which is not in this particular exhibition, but he's an artist that we have in the collection. So it's this ongoing learning that we get to take part in. I talked about ongoing skill and technique development. It's a lifelong learner. I look at my grandfather. My grandfather's still learning new tricks, how to fish and how to take a catfish out of the pond. You know, it's these new things that we get to continue to learn that art is giving me in that particular regard.
Kelvin Beacham is a Renaissance man.
No, yeah.
Right? Is that what you would describe yourself as?
Not at all, man. I'm just a country boy from Maher, Texas.
Maher. I love the way you say that because that's the way you have to say it. Kelvin, you had made some comments about Kyler Murray after the season. We know he went through the injury. We know that maybe at times he was not quite maybe all entrenched or whatever. That's maybe not fair to say that. How did he take your comments when you were trying to give some constructive criticism with him?
I don't know. I ain't been in the building to really find out. You know, I've been raising a family, enjoying the offseason. Mini camp will be here in June. You know, we got a good relationship. We work together. You got to find a way to put all that type of stuff aside and find a way to make each other better. I expect that he's going to hold me accountable if I happen to let a guy slide off and hit him. And I would imagine that I can hold him accountable if the ball ain't coming out fast enough. So it's that level of accountability and that level of transparency that I'm excited to have with him. And I think that's the relationship that we've had for a number of years and the years that I've been here. And know that that's just the nature of the beast and the nature of relationships. You know, you say things in media, and sometimes things can be misconstrued, especially when you only take just bits and pieces of it. But, you know, I respect him. He respects me. We'll have more time to sit together and spend time with each other over the next couple months prior to the season. So know that relationship is strong and know it's just fine.
What did being nominated for the Walter Payton Man of the Year award mean to you?
Man, it means that I still got a long ways to go. You know, I shouldn't be getting nominated for awards. I should be still doing the work. But, you know, spending time with the Payton family, which we've had a chance to do over the last couple of years, it just realized, it shows us just how much Walter Payton meant to the National Football League and what Walter Payton meant to the community. And you realize just being in the community and being able to serve people is special because you're able to put a smile on folks' faces. When, you know, there may not be, a lot of hope. And in my profession, I get to be a hope dealer, not only on the football field, but off the field.
What is more important to you, protecting a quarterback or protecting a piece of art?
The thing is, it's probably probably protecting the quarterback right now. I got to get insurance to protect his art. So it's a little bit more convoluted. I can control a lot of the things that happens on the football field. You can't control kind of natural disasters and things that happen within shipping. So
right.
Probably protecting the quarterback, because it's a lot more nuances that go with protecting art. But that's a great question. I've never been asked that.
Hey, look, you are the insurance.
Yeah, no, that's right.
That's your job. Your insurance. That's what you are.
No doubt.
Have you ever dropped a piece of art and were afraid to look whether or not it was damaged?
No, we don't. We don't do that. The kind of very delicate type of art. We love paintings.
Okay.
So most of the works are paintings. The only thing we have a couple sculptures, but for the most part, it's all paintings. Our kids know how to interact with the works in the house. They know not to touch the work unless it's allowed. Because some artists allow you to touch the work, but for the most part, a lot of the work is paintings. It's paintings in each of the kids' rooms, and they know how to act with the work. So it's a learning process and some learning mechanisms that are being taught as well, with being able to live with the work in the house.
If you don't mind, one more question. When you entered the NFL, did you ever dream you would be there as long as you are?
I had no idea. I had no idea, man. When I went off to college, man, my only goal was to make enough money when my parents didn't have to work anymore. My mom is now retired. My dad works because he wants to. But it's a gratifying feeling to be able to go out and accomplish a goal, which, again, it was just to work hard enough where my parents didn't have to work. So at any point in time, if they said, hey, I don't want to work anymore, there's been enough made and there's been enough created and enough resources where they can literally sit at the house for, the rest of their lives. Now, neither one of them built like that. They got, we got cattle down there, so they always have something to do. But I'm in a position to do that at any point in time. And that was really what I set out to do when I left Mayhill High School in 2007.
Jessica and Kelvin Beacham, the open exhibition at Baylor University's Martin Museum of Art starts on May the 5th. The food bank going on Friday in Mayhill. And he's the everyman. He really is. It's been great to know him from the beginning. Kelvin, thank you so much for your time. Good luck with all of what's going on with the exhibition and also, of course, with the food bank as well.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Smoak. It's good to see you. Good to hear you.
You too, buddy. Kelvin Beacham with us on 365 Sports. I apologize you could not see him, but you could hear him. And if you heard him, you can understand what we've seen from him. What was it? He went to the when he was in San Francisco.
Yeah, he was going to go technology, he went to Google, a bunch of companies.
Amazon and all that?
Yeah, Silicon Valley. And
Silicon Valley.
What? Did you just say Sam Houston?
No, I thought it said San Francisco.
Oh, San Francisco. I thought, okay.
San Francisco. Yeah. It was Silicon Valley, and he was a part of some tours. He was out there on Radio Row. You can see what he has become and has been a great young man for the longest of time. Martin Museum at Baylor, Friday, May the 5th, 4 to 5:30. There's media. But then doors open for a public event at 5:30, and eventually the exhibition will be available to the public. The food bank is going to be coming up this weekend, too. It's just amazing. You can go to kelvinbeacham.com, BEACHUM, for more information on all of what he does. And thanks to Ashley Smith for setting up the interview. As Kim Coulter said, guy sounds like a great guy. Just I hate the fact that he plays for the Cardinals. Thank you very much. Andrea Cameron, very nice interview with Kelvin. Good people. You're the one that helped us with that story, the backstory on the grandfathers. We appreciate that. This is 365 Sports. Stonewood Dental. Dr. Steve Childress is my dentist, and I'm proud to say that because he's helped me so much in the last 3 years get to understand my dental work a lot better, maintaining, sustaining, and also always being smart with obviously the hygiene, the dental hygiene, so that when you go see the dentist, you're not worried about cavities, root canals, whatever it could be if you're taking care of your teeth, if you're flossing, if you're brushing. That sounds like the ABCs of everything you should do, but that's not always the case. So when you have to go to the dentist, are you scared because you know you haven't taken care of your dental work, or you're like, hey, I'm proud to show off what I have. I used to be scared. Now I'm in really good shape when it comes to that, and playing catch up along the way in many ways. From the time they set up an appointment to you, to the time they remind you about it multiple times, to the time you walk to the front door, there's a smile there waiting for you, and the hygienist, the techs, and everyone else, and the dentist, Dr. Steve Childress and Company, amazing the way they treat you and make you smile better. Dr. Steve Childress, Stonewood Dental in Robinson, Texas.
The future's bright, the time is now.
College is what you make it. It's a late night pizza run and all-nighters coding a new project. It's having big dreams and making them a reality. It's a professor who knows your name and your story. It's preparation for your future, your calling, your life. And at Baylor, it's even more. Baylor, where lights shine bright.
Hi, this is Paul Catalina. I recently got engaged to the love of my life, but the most important thing that I had to do before I popped the question was get that perfect ring. And I know nothing about rings. So I went to the wedding ring store, Boozer's Jewelers on Valley Mills Drive. I knew I needed a custom design, and that's exactly what they do. 9 out of 10 of their engagement rings are designed in-house. The entire process took less than a month, and they were great every step of the way. Great options on financing, excellent selection, and talented designers. My fiance and I get non-stop compliments on the ring. I only deserve credit for doing the smartest thing I could, walking into Boozer's and letting them work their magic. Your one-of-a-kind fiance deserves a one-of-a-kind ring, and that's what you get at Boozer's. Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store on Valley Mills Drive.
It was broad daylight. I stepped into a gas station for 5 minutes to grab a snack, and just like that, my car was broken into. They made out like a bandit. My laptop, my phone, everything. I called my agent to see what could be done, and he restored my faith in humanity. My claim was processed so quickly, and I was able to recover my losses.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Did you know that 1 out of every 4 men have symptomatic low levels of testosterone and don't even know it? And if you think you're too young to worry about it, guess again. Low T levels can make you feel tired and grumpy, raise your cholesterol, and cause weight gain. Petty Clinic Low T can set up same-day blood screening and results. So if you're tired of being tired, call or go online at pettycliniclowt.com. It's a private clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Affordable, only $165 a month, including lab work, office consultation, testosterone injections, and follow-up visits, compared to $300 or more a month in Dallas or Austin, and you don't have to drive 90 miles one way or the other and fight the traffic. Petty Clinic Low T has board-certified physician consultations and will provide the best form of brand-strength testosterone. Contact Petty Clinic Low T for increased energy, improvement in sexual desire and performance, mood, concentration, even a decrease in body and belly fat. Just off Highway 84 and Old Hewitt Drive in Woodway, pettycliniclowt.com.
How did Edward Jones become one of the biggest financial service companies in the world? By not acting that way. Financial strategies, one-on-one advice, it's a big difference. And that's why Brad Wilson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, makes sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. Brad Wilson, 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, 254-776-4337. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Don Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. If anyone is curious about CBD, ask Carol and Ashley. Don Humidor in the Townwood Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. Enjoying the show? Hit the like button and subscribe.
365 Sports. David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak, Garrett Ross, and also Emery Winter running the mothership. Jack was here a little bit earlier. There is one that hate this story. Iowa State football player Aiden Ralph accused of violent rape, arrested on charges that he raped a woman while she lay immobile. And in fact, the story mentions that she fractured her spine. 20-year-old linebacker from Chicago arrested on Wednesday. Felony sexual assault and misdemeanor domestic violence charges at his home in Ames at 1 o'clock. The attack allegedly occurred on December the 3rd at 1 a.m.
Yeah, and he's been removed from the football program.
Yeah, that's awful. I don't know what else to add on to that. Fractured her spine. That's just kind of hard to even stomach hearing that. So, yeah, I don't know what to think outside of just what an ugly, unnecessary act of violence, and hope he gets thrown away for a very long time and we never hear his name ever again, because he doesn't deserve to ever be mentioned again, quite frankly.
Alabama fired their baseball coach. We opened up the show with that, Brad Bohannon, and since that time, a couple of other reports have come down that they have surveillance video of whenever part of what, I don't know if it'd be transaction or information or whatever, at Brad Bohannon, no players, no student athletes. Pete Thamel said that earlier from ESPN were involved. Brad Bohannon no longer is the head baseball coach at Alabama. I did see, Craig, you mentioned the culture stories that might start happening when an athletic department starts to have issues more than just one and it becomes a little bit prevalent. There was an article written by Dan Walken. I very rarely have agreed with him on that. He said that Greg Byrne, in his last two hires, based on the results, that should not be in charge of making the hire if, in fact, Nick Saban was to ever decide to leave if Byrne is still the AD. That's pretty harsh.
Yeah, and I guess we'll see. But they do. They've had a wild year there at Alabama, and wild's probably the wrong adjective to describe it, but it's not been great. When you've got multiple arrests and all that going on, it will call into question, like, what is the AD doing and what his oversight of that department is. The response to the Miller thing was really poorly thought out. I don't know if you can blame that completely on Greg Byrne or if that's on Nate Oates for answering the question that way. And the more you learn about it,
and the Brandon Miller part's not even the worst part. It's the player that was a part of the actual crime itself and is in jail, and we've forgotten about him because everybody started worrying about Brandon Miller and whether he's playing or not. It's like, you do realize there was a guy before that was, arrested in Darius Miles. So. It's not just the Brent. I wasn't trying to cut you off there, Paul, but it's Darius Miles, and then it's Brandon Miller, and then go ahead.
Yeah, it's all this. So you gotta call into question what's going on there in the athletic department. What the job is. And look, I think it happens quite often is that ADs, kind of riding high. One of the things he's going to do a lot, and most ADs do, is fundraise. And sometimes when you're rolling that in, you kind of start to delegate a little too much, and things get away from you. And yeah, they've got to look. I don't know if Greg Byrne needs to not be there or not. I'm not covering that or know enough of it to talk about it, but I do know that he does definitely need to, look at his procedures for oversight a little bit closer.
I mean, I can think of just in the last 6 months, you had the capital murder charges against one of your basketball players. You had another basketball player that, apparently, brought the gun, but you decided not to do anything there. You just had a recent football arrest where a young player was caught with guns and money, and I think some drugs as well. So you had that here recently. Now you got your baseball coach who's allegedly gambling during a game. So, I mean, that's a pretty good amount of stuff in like a 5-6 month period, whatever it's been at this point since the basketball story. And I know there's probably, one or two more minor in comparison to, capital murder. But a couple of things that I might not even be thinking of right now because I just feel like I'm probably missing something. But those are some of the main ones that that we've touched on at some point in time. So, yeah, like I said earlier, I don't think I'm not calling for the condemnation of all of Alabama and every member of Alabama athletics, but I do think if enough incidents go on in one spot, from murder to aiding and potentially a murder in some roundabout way, whether that was intentional or not, riding around with drugs, guns, and cash, coaches placing bets, which is highly illegal. I do think it's more than fair to go like, all right, let's stop it down for a second and ask, is the culture okay? Because I know if it was anywhere else, or at least if it was a smaller school, we'd certainly be asking that question. Sometimes, you can deflect that a bit better if you're bigger, or maybe there's a logical reason as to why, but I think these have all happened so quickly back to back, and they're pretty all heavy things that, there's reason to question of like, does there need to be a little bit of an intervention here, and we need to get back on track as far as the way we're operating our athletics programs.
The title of the ESPN story, and got to be careful about headlines, again, as we mentioned earlier, from David Purdom. Alabama baseball coach Brad Bohannon fired after a link to suspicious bets. And then also there may be a link to the bettor with him. You would think that. The school announced, of course, he's gone.
That's the whole thing. That's how they found it, was they found the bettor on the TV. Or they found him on the cameras, and they were able to link it. Surveillance cameras caught the guy making the bet, or girl, or whoever, and they didn't clarify on how, but they were able to then link it to Alabama's baseball coach. So I don't know if that's like a camera that sees your phone, or if that's, I don't know what that is. I don't know what all the surveillance technology a place like that would have, but that's what it was. Yeah, they directly linked it, and they just didn't clarify on how exactly they did that.
It is amazing when somebody asked us in the chat room how quickly, with now cyber and everything that you can get online, you see, you watch some of these shows, and I know some of it's probably a little bit exaggerated, but it is amazing how quickly you can find out anything that's out there. Your phone, your internet, your laptop, TV, whatever, and that did not take very long. Jason Jackson will now be the interim coach for Alabama the rest of the way. When we come back, Paul Catalina's Top 5.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Waco Custom Marketplace is your hometown grocery store with a full-service butcher shop and bakery. Hi, this is David Smoak. The butcher shop can take your customized orders for seafood, pork, and poultry, and custom cut your favorite steaks from bacon-wrapped fillets to T-bone to bone-in ribeyes, cut specifically the way you want. They have Norwegian salmon fillets, catfish fillets, sliced ham or turkey and lunch meat, variety of cheese available, and several options of sausage links, fresh chicken breast or whole chickens, sliced bacon, pork chops, ground beef, marinated beef, and chicken fajitas, and always large briskets available, plus fresh vegetables. So the great product, customer service, and family tradition of the Bauer family continues at Waco Custom Marketplace, open Monday through Saturday. A full-service butcher shop and bakery available. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive, North 19th Street, right behind the bank, is a hidden gem in Waco. If you're a fan of bourbon, especially local Texas bourbons, that's where you gotta go. Balcones, TX, Devil's River, whatever it is, they've got it. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, plus the best selection of craft beers in Waco, seasonally churned out throughout the year. Whether it's spring, summer, fall, or winter, Riverbend Liquor and Wine, best selection of craft beers, a speedy drive-through window, and excellent customer service. Find out more on Instagram or just go by and see them. Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street behind the bank.
Established in 2007 and independently owned, Alliance Bank Central Texas is committed to helping families and businesses meet their financial goals. From their tellers to their board of directors, they know the importance of superior service and competitive products. Customers have confidence knowing that their financial needs are in good hands. It's your bank, Alliance Bank Central Texas, with 2 Waco locations, 4721 Bosque Boulevard and 191 Archway Drive on Highway 84, and at alliancebanktexas.com. Member FDIC and equal housing lender.
Stepping into a new pair of boots is great, but stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can also add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. There are more than 150 occupational specialties to help them find the best fit for their future. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
It's time for Paul Catalina's Top 5, brought to you by Texas Beef House. Where's the best beef in Texas? Your house when you order from Texas Beef House. Unleash the flavor of Texas-raised Wagyu. From our pasture to your plate, TexasBeefHouse.com.
Top 5 impact Big 12 men's basketball transfers. This, if you look at what happened with Hunter Dickinson today, and you look at who's transferred so far, of the top 15 transfers, these are 5 of them in the Big 12 so far. And look, it's the best, pound for pound basketball league going, so it's not so much of a surprise. But when you talk about just the very tippy top of this and how they've cleaned up, it's really quite amazing. So let's start with number 5, LJ Cryer at Houston. I'm really interested to see how this fits in that Houston's going to have to play defense around LJ. LJ, the heart is willing, but he's not a very long guy, so he has got mismatched on defense. He's going to score. He's going to score, and they need that very badly. This seems to be a good match, but I'm curious to see what happens when Houston doesn't have 5 elite defenders on the floor, which Kelvin Sampson has seemed to have for the last decade or so.
Yeah, LJ will be a good pickup, or it was a good pickup for them, and I'm excited to see what he can do there. Kelvin Sampson's a great coach, so I think that in that regard he made a great decision. Being back close to home will be very cool for him, but does feel like he feels like he left some on the table, and that's why he's got some more to prove, and I know part of that's the position. He wants to be able to play point guard and show that he can do that. So he'll have a great opportunity, and he'll definitely be impactful one way or the other.
Man, that happens so quickly. A lot of times the transfer portal doesn't, but that one did, and I think he's going to have a huge year at Houston.
Yeah, I do. I think
he's going to have to learn to play defense better, which he would have had to do if he was coming back to Baylor. And Sampson, of course, we know he knows how to do that.
I just wonder if it's just a physical thing. Like he's got bad matchups because he's not short, but he's also not Mr. Wingspan or anything like that. So his body's not necessarily set up to play the kind of defense if you have those bad matchups. And at number 4, Tyler Perry from K-State. At K-State now. Goes in to take the place of, now I'm blanking on his name. I had it all in my head. The fantastic point guard that played for them.
Knowles.
Knowles, who was great down the stretch for them. And they might, again, get Johnson back, so that team could be loaded for bear and making another run trying to contend for the Big 12 title. But Jerome Tang knows what he's doing. This is the first, like we said yesterday, we mentioned it, in the Scott Drew Circle transfer. So Grant McCasland, who went to Texas Tech. I do wonder, I guess maybe he want to follow him there or just liked the Jerome Tang opportunity better. But this guy can play in the Big 12 and will do very well.
Yeah, he's very, very good. And, Texas Tech's recruiting has kind of gotten off to a little bit of a sluggish start since Grant McCasland arrived. He has his specific type player. You would wonder that, why would he not just go play for Grant? But Kansas State's very much involved in playing for Jerome Tang's a hell of a deal. He proved that last year.
Yep. Number 3, Jesse Edwards at West Virginia, who comes from Syracuse. This kind of surprised me, but I mean, look, the coach is retiring and all this thing there, or whatever you want to call what happens with Jim Boeheim after this year. But he's leaving Syracuse to West Virginia, and this is very publicly all about NIL. And Huggy Bear is going full tilt into the basketball NIL game, and they went and got Jesse Edwards. This is going to be important because he's a big man. The guy who's top of this list, I think everybody will know who it is. They're going to have to play them at least twice to get through. But West Virginia's been kind of middling in the Big 12 for a couple years, and Bob Huggins is not going to like that. He's getting aggressive. He's getting aggressive now in the transfer portal. This is not the only transfer he has, but this is one that he hit out of the park.
Yeah, I mean, this wasn't the only one. I mean, they went heavy, as you said. So they're going all in and trying to be like everybody else who's dove right into NIL. It's unavoidable at this point. You're either in it or you're not. And if you're not, then you don't really have a great chance of succeeding. I think especially in basketball now at this point. But He's made his moves. We'll see how they pay off for him. But you're right in saying that they've kind of just been there for a couple years now, it feels like, or just sort of, oh, yeah, Bob Huggins in West Virginia. Like, I don't mean that disrespectfully. It's just I don't think of them right away like I would have probably a few years ago. Because a lot of that, too, is just the Big 12 coaching's gotten so good that there's others that you think of that have all gone and done big things. Like Scott Drew's a national championship head coach now. Jerome Tang had a sensational first year and so on. So part of that's just what others have done. But, yeah, they're back. So Huggy Bear should be pretty happy right now.
He's too good of a coach to let the team go on as long as they have. And a part of it's just adjusting to
he didn't know what to do with it.
The modern part of it. But I love to think of him like going to the NIL guys and go, listen, you got to crap or get off the pot here, guys.
Right. Yeah.
I don't need any of this mess anymore. Like, I'm
tired he might know some people.
Yeah, I'm sure. Like, hey, you want to help? Do you like us winning? Well, this is how we have to do it now. So, number 2, Max Asmus on his way from RRU to Texas. If number 1 on this list hadn't have happened, had gone somewhere else, he would be number 1. This is an absolute home run for anybody who gets them, and it's an absolute home run for Texas. Again, you give me a roster, and Texas just picked up another transfer, I believe, from UTA about 45 minutes ago. But if you give me Dylan Dessou and Max Asmus on the roster, I am not as much worried about who the other 3 guys are on the floor at any given time. Mm-hmm. I think that's a good place to start. Now, not to saying that you don't have to worry about that, but that really clears up a lot of things and creates a couple different matchup nightmares for people because Asmus can score all game long, and Dessou showed what he is turning into towards the end of last year. So, I guess at the end, when he coach made the statement like, look, I built some of this roster too. He did it right there, hit it out of the park with Max Asmus.
I just saw a note from Kirk Bowles. You remember former UT guard Lance Blanks?
Yeah, I didn't mention that.
Did you?
I think I did that during you're right. Okay. I did it during the break. You're right, yeah.
He passed away at age 56, apparently.
Terrible.
Played for Texas in 88, 89, and 90. So just wanted to pass that along because that was from Kirk Bowles just a few minutes ago. But, yeah, I mean, Asmus was wanted by a lot of different teams. A lot of big programs wanted that guy for a reason. And Texas won out in the end. And, like you said, with what they've got coming back, all the confidence surrounding Rodney Terry, the thing is they're going to have huge expectations now. I mean, this isn't going to be like just keep the ship floating.
That too.
We'll keep that floating too, I guess. But it's not going to be, kind of like this question. Like, he's the coach now. There's no like he's got to earn it or blah blah blah. So with that out of the way, I'm curious to see how that potentially just relaxes things a little bit as far as being able to block out all that outside noise and just deal with the expectations themselves. And, as far as the roster goes, I mean, that's a huge get for them. So they're going to have a lineup of talent, no doubt.
And number 1, Hunter Dickinson at Kansas. Bill Self has, when he has a big man who can dominate, really is problematic.
This is just so you'll get a warm dinner tonight.
No, look, this is true. That doesn't matter. I'll mess up something before I get home and be in trouble. So it's fine.
Yeah, it's a huge deal for them. It's
huge.
hell of a pickup.
Because you think about like how good were they with McCormick? How good were they with Udoka? When they've won when they've won titles, they've had really good big men and I could make the argument that Hunter Dickinson is better than both those guys. than Udoka and McCormick with what he's done at Michigan and stepping in. Now, we'll see. I mean, again, I make the argument. I can also make the argument the other way that those guys were.
He's a hell of a player.
He's a really good player.
And you would think that Kansas will be just really good with him.
Yeah.
And it would have been good without him, but now even better with him.
It is very bizarre that we live in an era where a guy can transfer from one school with a ton of money for NIL to another school with a ton of money for NIL. And maybe, look, he knew he was probably going to get it wherever he went, and he was going to, but the fact that, we've just seen the Michigan lose out on an NIL battle on something boggles my mind, but because that's probably a lot what this is about, or maybe just playing in a different league and winning a title.
Who's is it Juwan Howard? Who's the coach?
Yeah.
Maybe, I'm not saying that had nothing to do with it, but you never know.
You never know what everything is, but this is a lineup that brings back DeJuan Harris and KJ Adams and probably Kevin McCullough when the whole draft process is over. Then you throw in what they, Uday and those guys that are coming back, plus the other transfers that they've gotten, Arteria Morris and
you're going to go with the whole roster?
Yeah, I mean, it's deep. They were not deep last year, and they won the Big 12.
They were not. And in fact, Self, when he lost to Baylor and Waco, made the comment, this is one of those where it's going to be a war of attrition. And he knew it was not going to just be real easy, even though they ended up being a co-champion of the Big 12. This story, John Rothstein, he didn't break this story, but he's confirming this story that Baylor, Pittsburgh, Florida, and Oregon State will headline the 2023 preseason NIT at the Barclays Center in November, according to, it was reported earlier by, FanDuel back in December. I remember that story, but now it's confirmed and the lineup is set. All right? Thank you, Garrett Ross. We appreciate that so much. Paxton's trying to get a hold of Texas Beef House for an order. Paxton, I'll let you know. I'll call the owner and have him contact you at some point, even if it's tonight. We appreciate that. Emory, great stuff. Sports Tonight at 10:30. Back again tomorrow. This is 365 Sports. We'll see you at 3.
Ideal MRI is a small family business right here in Central Texas. We're open to support you while lowering the